Welcome, welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keene. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, and check us out. Facebook, Instagram, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, and wherever you guys are watching from, make sure to hit the like and give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And share this link. It helps me to get it out there. That way new people can find me. And if you would like to donate and support, keep in mind that we are completely viewer powered. You can do that by going to PayPal, Cash App, Facebook Messenger, or by joining us over on Patreon. All the links should be in the chat as well as in the description box. And if you check this on the flip side too, over on Facebook or BitChute or whatever, any of the other platforms, I try to pin it always at the top of the comment section as well. We're going to go ahead and get to the screen share. I've got a pretty cool one tonight. Um, Hopefully I've solved my feedback problem. I've been having I've got new equipment coming. So if not, I apologize, but you guys let me know in the chat if the audio and the video is good, if I'm coming through good for all you guys. Tonight we're going to be talking about, psychic soldiers, psychic warriors, and the CIA is probably most well known of, the government branches, if you will, that have really dabbled in these experiments, from everything with the Monroe Institute and the Gateway experience, where they were studying OBE, or what was called out of body experience, what we call astral projection, to the Stargate project, and things of that nature, where they've literally made movies after the shit, like Men Who Stare at Goats, and things of that nature, where we get into channeling and remote viewing and Uri Geller. And we're just going to be looking at all of that tonight, including hypnosis, subliminal messaging. And whenever we get into that, we can't really dive into that without, looking at a little bit of MK Ultra and, what it has to do with cults, and kind of how all of this spins into, this modern new age that we see now, and the discovery. We're rediscovering consciousness. I feel like in the ages past, uh, this was common knowledge. Humanity not only was very in tune and in touch, with our own consciousness and our own spirituality, and we probably were even tapped in and tuned into, extrasensory parts of ourself, that we consider psychic now. We consider these extra senses now, but telepathy, telekinetic powers, all of these things. We believe it's something extraordinary and something out of the ordinary now. And it's like, I feel like it was probably very commonplace in the past, and we even seen that the buildings, and I've referred to this quite a bit. If you look like into Tartaria and ancient structures and ancient technology, into the ancient history, whether it's pyramids or Vimanas, it's very, very apparent that humanity was at an incredibly high state of consciousness. And in that high state of consciousness, we were definitely tuned in spiritually, so much so where, all of our bells and using Mercury for free energy and tapping into the ether itself, which, Tesla was rediscovering. And we've seen the government not only try to suppress, as we've entered into the industrial revolution, by altering the education system and all of that, um, but they've tried to weaponize it and use it for, their own agendas, but, suppress it from the masses and keep us from tapping back into, our abilities. I believe we use far more, or we're capable of using far more of our brains and of ourselves than we're told. We're told we're only able to access 10% of our brains. We only see 0.1% of the electromagnetic light spectrum, and then you get into things like kids with autism, nonverbal, autism, and things like that, and you start to see where people whether they're or challenged with sight, not being able to see, or having hearing impediments, things like that, and it seems to activate other senses within their body. And this is not just people that have that are handicapped in some way, or have some sort of physical or sensory handicap. This is also people that do have spiritual practices that are kind of stepping outside of the box, and altering altered states of consciousness, not just through drugs like peyote and DMT and LSD and psilocybin, but through meditation and other things like that. So tonight we're going to look at all of that. It should be a pretty good one. It should be pretty interesting. Where do I want to start first? I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for joining me. Where are we here? Where's the chat? I will be checking the chat here. Here we go. I will be checking the chat here for all of you guys. So make sure to hit the like, hit the thumbs up for me. I do appreciate it. And like I said, share this link. We're going to be looking at Heaven's Gate and all types of shit. And this is what's crazy about a lot of this stuff. It doesn't matter. There's always been some period of time, throughout history where we've had, and this is why I think people are so skeptical about spirituality and consciousness, and about like tapping into our gifts, is because there's always these charlatans that have, risen up throughout history, and people have felt, um, taken advantage of, right? People have felt that, they get the wool pulled over their eyes, and that there's always someone looking to capitalize on spirituality and capitalize on these spiritual teachings. But, now it's taking place in a whole different world. We have science to back up consciousness. So let's start off here first. We're going to jump into the first document of the night here, which will be the gateway process. I'm going to start with the gateway process, simply because this is one of the best and most well-rounded documents that we have, that really, really does a good job of scientifically explaining the mechanisms of consciousness and how it can be used to tap into, different parts of our brain, whether that be through hypnosis, which is circumventing of the left brain to access the right brain. So we'll start here. And for those of you that aren't familiar, let's just pull this up first. And I do have a playlist specifically. This probably will be added to that playlist with a couple other videos just only based on Gateway. But the Gateway experience is a training system developed by Robert Monroe, designed to explore altered states of consciousness and enhance intuition through the use of binaural audio techniques, often referred to as hemisync. The purpose, the Gateway experience aims to help individuals explore their inner selves, enhance their intuition, and potentially access higher states of consciousness. The system utilizes binaural audio techniques, which is called hemisync, which is to stimulate the brain and induce specific states of focus and awareness. The Gateway experience associated with the Monroe Institute, which is a center for consciousness exploration and research, and the CIA's interest in the 80s. The CIA investigated the Gateway process, focusing on its potential for psychic research and remote viewing. The focus levels, the Gateway experience introduces different focus levels or states of consciousness, such as focus 10, focus 12, focus 15. And it comes in wave series. The experience is presented as a series of waves or audio CDs, each focusing on different aspects of conscious exploration. The example of the wave is Discovery. Wave 5 is Exploring. Wave 6 is Odyssey. Hemisync, the audio techniques used in the Gateway experience, is often referred to as hemisync, which is hemispheric synchronization. So, in this hemispheric synchronization is basically just getting both of your hemispheres of your brain synchronized to be operating together instead of in conflict with one another. So you can see right here, this is kind of like who they are, and I don't know, this is another one of the released to the Freedom of Information Act. This is the Institute of Applied Science, the Gateway Program. Who Are We? In 1958, Robert Monroe, a New York broadcasting executive, began having experiences that drastically altered his life. Unpredictably and without willing it, Monroe found himself leaving his physical body to travel via a second body to locales far removed from the physical and spiritual realities of his life. And we're going to look at the Mars exploration, which is a remote viewing exercise as part of the Stargate project, I believe it's called. This was also taking place during the 80s. So we're going to be looking at a few different remote viewing, out of body experience, techniques and exercises, through the CIA tonight. So, unpredictably, without willing it, Monroe found himself leaving his physical body to travel via a second body to locales far removed from the physical and spiritual realities of his life. He was inhabiting a place unbounded by time or space. With some trepidation, he wrote a book about his experiences. Doubleday published Journeys Out of the Body in 1971. Anchor brought out a second edition in 1977. Throughout the book, Monroe maintains the stance of a careful, objective reporter who often reports his own confusion in this unusual area. He relies upon his personal experiences for interpretation rather than any occult, religious, or spiritual framework. In the 60s, Monroe became interested in the possible connection between nonverbal audio patterns and brainwave rhythms. From his long experience with sound, he advanced from rotating disc circuit breakers to sophisticated custom-built signal generators and the production of tape recordings in which as many as 16 patterns of sounds mixed together on stereo channels, drawing upon his discoveries and the work of others. He employs a system of binaural beats to create a frequency something response in the brainwave rhythms. The FFR not only gives some control over the brainwave emission of each hemisphere, the two hemispheres. In 75, Monroe received a generic patent for this method. 71, the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences was founded and located in the foothills of Blue Ridge, Virginia. So that's just a little bit background on the Monroe Institute. Let's see if I can get back to this now. Like I said, I've got a lot of shit. Sub Project 68 and a Sunbeam Project and all kinds of shit. So you tasked me to provide an assessment of the Gateway experience in terms of its mechanics and ultimate practicality. As I set out to fulfill that tasking, it soon became clear that in order to assess the validity and practicality of the process, I needed to do enough supporting research and analysis to fully understand how and why the process works. Frankly, sir, that proved to be an extremely involved and difficult business. Initially, based on conversations with a physician who took the Gateway training with me, I had recourse to the biomedical models developed by Itzhak Bentov to obtain information concerning the physical aspects of the process. Then I found it necessary to delve into various sources for information concerning quantum mechanics in order to be able to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness. I had to be able to construct a scientifically valid and reasonably lucid model of how consciousness functions under the influence of the brain hemisphere synchronization technique employed by Gateway. Once this was done, the next step involved recourse to theoretical physics in order to explain the character of the time space dimension and the means by which expanded human consciousness transcends and its achieving Gateway objectives. Finally, I again found it necessary to use physics to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science to remove the stigma of its occult connotations and put it in a frame of reference suited to objective assessment. I began the narrative by briefly profiling the fundamental biomedical factors affecting such related techniques as hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation, so that their objectives and mode of functioning could be compared in the reader's mind with the Gateway experience as the model of its underlying mechanics was developed. Additionally, that introductory material is useful in supporting the conclusions of the paper. I indicate that at times these related techniques may provide useful entry points to accelerate movement into the Gateway experience. Niels Bohr, the renowned physicist, once responded to his son's complaints about the obtuse nature of certain concepts in physics by saying, "You are not thinking, you are merely being logical. The physics of altered human consciousness deals with some conceptualizations that are not easily grasped or visualized exclusively in the context of ordinary left brain linear thinking." So, to borrow Dr. Bohr's mode of expression, parts of this paper will require not only logic, but a touch of right brain intuitive insight to achieve a complete, comfortable grasp of the concepts involved. Nevertheless, once that is done, I am confident that their construction and application will stand up to the test of rational critique. Paradoxically, having gone to such great lengths to avoid trying to render judgments based on an occult or dogmatic frame of reference, in the end, I found it necessary to return, at least briefly, to the question of that impact of the gateway experience as common belief systems. I did so because although it was essential to avoid attempting to render an assessment into the context of such systems, I felt that it was necessary after having completed the analysis to point out that the resulting conclusions do not do any violence to the fundamental mainstream of either Eastern or Western belief systems, unless that point is clearly established. The danger exists that some people will reject the whole concept of the gateway experience in the mistaken belief that it contradicts and is therefore alien to all that they hold to be right and true. This study is certainly not designed to be the last word on the subject, but I hope that the validity of its basic structure and of the fundamental concepts upon which it is based will make it a useful guide for others, USANCOM personnel who are required to take gateway training or work with gateway materials. And like I said, we have, and after this one, we are going to go to the Mars exploration because this is wild. So first, we're going to look at a little bit of the hemispheric synchronization and how they get the hemispheres of the brain to kind of synchronize to be able to produce an out-of-body experience or astral projection. And then I want you to we're going to shift gears into Mars exploration and Uri Geller and all of that to kind of see different people that have been able to remote view by projecting their consciousness with or without these advanced methods. The Monroe Institute just developed a method using binaural beats, right? Hemispheric synchronization to make both hemispheres synchronize to stimulate, right? Sort of higher states of consciousness and certain trigger certain brain activity. That way people could do certain things, psychic abilities that were already inherent in all of us. Different exercises, if you will, to like stimulate that, which I don't know if you've ever had firsthand experience with the gateway process tapes. They are they're pretty wild. I literally am very familiar with them. I believe in them wholeheartedly that they have a massive effect on us consciously, right? Tuning both hemispheres together. Our brain is so good at pattern recognition. We'll hear sound through one side of our brain, sound through another side of our brain at two different frequencies, and our brain will make a median, right, where both of those come together, harmonizing both frequencies, and it's amazing. And the dreams and the experiences I've had just by using this firsthand are pretty wild. But the Mars exploration, you're going to see like these are different exercises that the CIA did where they would give like people longitude and latitude and shit like that, not tell them where they were remote viewing. And then they go on to like describe, like Mars, 1 million BC, and they describe a fucking alien race and all kinds of shit. So we've got some interesting stuff. We're also going to be looking at the field manual of the First Earth Battalion. This is like the one that they made the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, right? Where like psychic soldiers, psychic warriors, once again, these are all part of like the Stargate project, Sunbeam project, MK Ultra. I think it's Project 68 or Operation 68 or whatever. So there's like many different operations and projects that they've done where they've tapped into different forms of our psychic abilities and consciousness. And that's really what we're going to be looking at tonight. Yeah, SUD Project 68. Okay, so here we go. First is the introduction. We're just going to do a few of these before we jump into, so we can get like the, the scientific method. And we're going to be going back and forth to all of these guys, all of these. And this is going to make you see, like, because the way that they've studied these different things, like, how hypnosis is so effective, how people can get involved with like these new age cults and shit like that. It's just wild once you see it all. If you guys could, let me know if you can hear me and see me good. See Eric, Ibu, Elliott, Oh Hillbilly, Kimberly F, Jim Lycione. Thank you guys for joining me. All right. Thank you so much. If you guys can hear me and see me, let me know, and make sure to hit the thumbs up. We're going to go ahead and jump into this. If the sound is good, I think the sound is good. Thank you. Thank you so much. That, even my girlfriend says like that Kimberly is the greatest moderator. She's on it, dude. For real. It's no lie. Best moderator I've ever had. All right, here we go. Gateway experience, brain hemisphere, synchronization, and perspective. Number one, introduction. In order to describe the Monroe Institute technique for achieving altered states of consciousness, the gateway experience involving brain hemisphere synchronization or hemisync, the most effective way to begin is to briefly profile the basic mechanics which underlay operation of related methods such as hypnosis. And keep in mind, like, this is going to get us into subliminal stimuli and all kinds of shit, which, subliminal messaging, symbolism, right? Like, this will eventually evolve into some dark occult by the end. I guarantee it. I always take everything there. And which is involving brain hemisphere synchronization or hemisync. The most effective way to begin is briefly profile the basic mechanics which underlay operation of related methods such as hypnosis, transcendental meditation, and biofeedback. It is easiest to effectively describe what gateway is by beginning with a short description of those associated techniques that share some common aspects with the gateway experience, but which are nevertheless different. And this way, we can develop a frame of reference at the outset, which will provide useful concepts to explain and understand gateway by comparison as we proceed. Hypnosis. And think about quantum hypnosis and Dolores Cannon and like just how, this people are doing all this hypnosis regression training nowadays to, go into past lives to break, fragmented, fractured states of us where we have like trauma, like locked in, blocking us from, doing things now. Like hypnosis has become huge. Hypnosis, according to the theories of psychologist Ronald Stone and the biomedical engineering models of Ishtok Bentov, hypnosis is basically a technique which permits acquisition of direct access to the sensory motor cortex and pleasure centers and lower cerebral or emotional portions and associated pleasure centers of the right side of the human brain following successful disengagement of the stimulus screening function of the left hemisphere of the brain. The left hemisphere of the brain is the self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning component of the mind. It fulfills the functions of screening incoming stimuli by categorizing, assessing, and assigning meaning prior to allowing passage to the right hemisphere of the mind. The right hemisphere, which functions as the non-critical, holistic, nonverbal, and pattern-oriented component of the brain, appears to accept what the left hemisphere passes to it without question. And this makes me think of like the telepathy tapes, right? These people that have this nonverbal, and it's almost become like they have telepathy, right? Because they're nonverbal, and this would be seen as a handicap to some because they have like this innate disconnection, from their consciousness to their body, and they have to be trained, right, in order to communicate without words, right? by being touched and tapped and all of the different, expressions that they use to do that. These people are able to read minds, to mesh their consciousness with the people, their teachers, their parents, and all kinds of shit. But we're finding over and over and over and over again, just by, looking at the telepathy tapes, that these people have different gifts, conscious gifts, spiritual gifts inherent, because they lack the ability to speak, that disconnect from the body and the mind. So it's like they have circumvented that left brain process completely, and then tapping into the right hemisphere, and it's that inner knowing, right? Because we know that the left is associated in the occult and in the esoteric with the masculine side of the brain, right? So this would be your logical, masculine, mental, right? Like mental, the all is mind. That's why, we call Father God, it's a masculine, right? Mind, mental, right? But then we have that divine feminine, which is that inherited intuitive knowing side, right? So it's like just automatically having those answers, right? But we get the speech side from that masculine side, the left side of the brain. So it's amazing to see how it's represented and how we see this manifested into physical reality and in different ways. So we're gonna hopefully, throughout tonight, we can just show all different types of examples of this and show you just how real this shit really is. Um, the right hemisphere, which functions as the non-critical, holistic, nonverbal, and pattern-oriented component of the brain, and think about this too, the pattern-oriented component of the brain, and think about conspiracy theorists and shit like that, right? They say, we are the people that, have uh, the ability to recognize, these patterns and everything, right? We see the patterns and everything. It's because we're tapped into that more intuitive side. We're willing to believe the things that defy logic because it's more of an intuitive knowing. We're more right brained, more spiritual, focused people. Not to say all people are, but, that are into that. But that's why you see a lot of that, a lot of the people into the conscious community, conspiracies, and shit like that. The Consequently, if the left hemisphere can be distracted either through boredom or through reduction to a soporific semi-sleep state, external stimuli, to include hypnotic suggestions, are allowed to pass unchallenged into the right hemisphere, where they are accepted and acted upon directly. The result may involve an emotional reaction originating in the lower cerebral region. Sensory motor cortices of the right cerebral portion of the brain contain a sequence of points known as the homunculus, which corresponds to the point in the body, which see Exhibit 1, and it's on the next page, we'll show you. Stimulation of the corresponding area on the cortex causes intermediate response in the associated portion of the body. Consequently, induction of the suggestion that the left leg is numb if it reaches the right hemisphere unchallenged and is referred to the appropriate area of the sensory cortex will result in an electrical reaction being generated that will induce a feeling of numbness. Similarly, the suggestion that the person is experiencing a general feeling of happiness and well-being would be referred to the appropriate pleasure centers in the lower cerebral portion or in the cortex of the right hemisphere, thereby inducing the suggested feeling of euphoria. Finally, suggestions such as one that informs a hypnotic subject that he enjoys enhanced concentration or powers of memory would be responded to in the right hemisphere by accessing unused information storage capacity normally held in reserve as a result of left hemisphere selection and control processes. This aspect will become significant in the context of the gateway process when attention is given to examining the way that hypnosis may be used to accelerate progress in the early stages of the gateway experience. And you can see it's just showing you this is, figure 1 right here, the homunculus of the brain, showing you how this works. Figure B, the motor and sensory cortex, and third and lateral ventricles, which, I am not a doctor. Let me go ahead and state that this is not medical advice, financial, legal, This is not even fact. This is all my opinion. So just let that, be the disclaimer for this, right? And finally, a view of the third lateral ventricles in context of associated brain. Now, we're going to look at transcendental meditation, and we're going to jump over to the Mars exploration because I just think it's so interesting. I just want to get to it, and then we'll jump back over to Gateway. So, transcendental meditation. On the other hand, transcendental meditation works in a distinctly different fashion, and this technique, intense and protracted single-minded concentration on the process of drawing energy up the spinal cord, ultimately results in what appears to be creation of acoustical standing waves in the cerebral ventricles, which are then conducted to the gray matter in the cerebral cortex on the right side of the brain. As a result, according to Bentov, these waves will stimulate and eventually polarize the cortex in such a way that it will tend to conduct a signal along the homunculus, starting from the toes and on up. The Bentov biomedical model, as described in the book by Lee Sinella, MD, entitled Kundalini Psychosis or Transcendent, states that the standing acoustical waves are the result of the altered rhythm of heart sounds, which are occasioned by prolonged practice of meditation, and which set up sympathetic vibrations in the walls of the fluid-filled cavities, which comprise the third and lateral ventricles of the brain. In addition, according to Bentov, the states of bliss described by those whose Kundalini symptoms have completed the full loop along the hemisphere may be explained as a self-stimulation of the pleasure centers in the brain caused by circulation of a current along the sensory cortex. Bentov also notes that most of the described symptoms start on the left side of the body, means that it is mostly developing or occurring in the right hemisphere. Although normally a period of meditation involving intense concentration and practice for 5 years or some is required to bring up the Kundalini, Bentov states that exposure to mechanical or acoustical vibrations in the range of 4 to 7 hertz cycles per second for protracted periods may achieve the same effect. Bentov cites as an example that range of vibrations or being exposed for long periods of time to these frequencies caused, for instance, by air conditioning ducts. He also notes the cumulative effect in these vibrations may be able to trigger spontaneous physio-kundalini sequence in susceptible people who have a particularly sensitive nervous system. So now, before we go through the other methods here, let's see how many we have left. Yeah, we got too many. So before we start getting into the other methods, right, of how people are able to access this, we're going to go over here because it's just fucking fascinating, dude. This is the Mars exploration. So this is the method of acquisition. So this is a sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. So this is what they did, right? Let's see if I can find a wiki on this one just to kind of get, let's see. No. Here we go. I think it's right. Here we go. Stargate Project. So the Stargate Project was a secret U.S. Army unit establishment in 1977 at Fort Meade, Maryland by the Defense Intelligence Agency and SRI International to investigate the potential for psychic phenomena in military and domestic intelligence applications. The project and its precursors and sister projects originally went from various code names based on the relevant agencies operating the program: Gondola Wish, Stargate, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Project CF, Sunstreak, Scanate, until 1991 when they were consolidated and rechristened as a Stargate project, which I have some of those documents, throughout tonight, by the way, Sunstreak and Grill Flame and shit like that. So Stargate's project work primarily involves remote viewing. The purported ability to physically see events, sites, or information from a great distance. The project was overseen until 1987 by Lieutenant Frederick Holmes, Skip Atwater, born in 47, an aide and psychic headhunter to Major General Albert Stubblebine and later president of the Monroe Institute, which we just seen. The Monroe Institute was the Gateway experience, which happened, I believe, in like 81 or 83, something like that. So after what we're about to see here. And the unit was a small scale comprising about 15 to 20 individuals and was run out of an old leaky wooden barracks. The Stargate project was terminated and declassified in 95 after a CIA report concluded that it was never useful in any intelligence operation. Information provided by the program was vague and included irrelevant and erroneous data, and there was suspicions of interjudge reliability. The program was featured in the 2004 book and 2009 film, The Men Who Stare at Goats, although neither mentions it by name. George Stephanopoulos, in his 2024 book, The Situation Room, mentions the project by name, Grill Flame, in discussing on May 8th, 1980, Situation Room briefing for President Carter after Carter's failed hostage rescue mission in Iran. So, now, here we go. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview, and the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information. The planet Mars, time of interest approximately 1 million years BC. Selected geographic coordinates provided by the parties requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. And I'm pretty sure that the guy that actually did this particular one, he was the most accurate of all of the remote viewers, and he had something around like a 20% accuracy, which is like basically that's high as fuck. That means like 1 out of 5, you would guess. And somehow or another, the reason that, and I've heard of other studies, just even more recent studies, where the reason they give them like the geographic, location, longitude, latitude, shit like that, right? And in the degrees is that way they get no geographic, like, they're not going to say a street or a state or a mountain terrain or anything like that. That way your mind's not attached to any sort of image. That way it's like a pure teleportation basically of your consciousness to that spot. So that's kind of the way I've interpreted it. All right. May 22nd, time 10:09 a.m. So it's May 22nd, 1984. And isn't it interesting too? Like the book 1984, and it's just 1984. So it's interesting. Plus 10 minutes ready to start. All right, now, using the information in the envelope I provided, exclusively focusing your attention now. Using the information in the envelope, focus on. And it would be interesting just to kind of say this. It would be interesting for people at home, just like as, their own exercise for themselves or whatever. You can write it in the comment section later if you want to. Like, to focus on those degrees and see what comes up for you. Write down anything that comes to mind. 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west. Subject says, I want to say it looks like, I don't know. It sort of looks like I got kind of an oblique view of a pyramid or a pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. All right. It's yellowish, ochre colored. All right. Move in time to the time indicated in the envelope I provided you and describe what's happening, which this is 1 million BC. I'm tracking severe clouds, more like dust storm. It's a geologic problem. Seems to be like, just a minute. I've got to iron this out. It's really weird. Just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in this session. I'm looking at an after effect of a major geologic problem. Okay. Go back to the time before the geologic problem, which we have a tornado warning and stuff here in Cincinnati. So, um, um, total difference. It's before there's no I don't know. Oh hell, it's like mountains of dirt appear and then disappear where you go before. See, large flat surfaces, very smooth angles, walls. They're really large, though. I mean, they're megalithic. All right. At this period in time, now before the geologic activity, look around in and around this area and see if you can find any activity. I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and they're not. They're not there anymore. Go back to a period of time where they are there. Um, it's like I get a lot of static on a line and everything. It's breaking up all the time, just very fragmentary pieces. Just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together. Just report the raw data. I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large. Um, Wearing some kind of strange clothes. All right. Now, holding in this time period, I want to move from your physical location in space to another physical location, but in this time period. Move now to 46.45 north and 353.22 east. Move in this time to 46.45 north to 353.22 east. Deep inside of a cavern, not a cavern, more like a canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seem to go on forever. And there's like a structure with it's like the wall of a canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting a very large structures, no intricacies, huge sections of smooth stone. Do the structures have insides and outsides? Yes, they're very. It's like a rabbit warren, corners of rooms. They're really huge. I don't. I feel like I'm standing in one. It's just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very hot, very high. Walls are very wide. Real time plus 22 minutes. Yes, that would be correct. All right, I'd like to move on to another location nearby. All right. Move from this point in this time to 45.86 north, 354.1 east. 45.86 north, 354.1 east. They have um, appears to be the end of a very large road, and there's a marker thing. It's very large. Keep getting Washington Monument overlay. It's like an obelisk. All right. From this point, then, let us move to another point. Move now to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. Move in this time to 35.26 north, 213.24 24 east. It's like I'm in the middle of a huge circular basin. The range mountains by almost all the way around. Very ragged mountains, very tall. Basin's very, very, very large. Scale seems to be off or something. It's just really big. Everything's big. I understand the problem. Just continue. See just a right angle corner to something, but that's all. I don't see anything else. Okay, and let's move into a little different place. Very close. Move from the point you are now, and this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. Move now, and this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. The cluster of squares up and down, it's like you want to make them square anyway. They're almost flush with the ground. It's like they're connected. Something very white or reflects light. What's your position of observation as you look at this thing that reflects light? I'm amid oblique left angle. The sun is weird. Look back down at the ground now, and we're going to move just a little bit from this place. Just a little bit from this place. 34.57 north, 212.22 east. Very close by now. Move over now to 34.57 north, 212.22 east. It's like I can just perceive, it's like a radiating pattern of some kind. It's like some really strange intersecting kind of roads that are dug into valleys, where a road is just a little below the edge. Tell me about the shapes of these things. Where are we at here? Here we go. Tell me about the shapes of these things. They're like real neat channels cut. They're very deep. It's like the road went down, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen. I think I want to say it's like Secure Team, maybe is who had it on their channels, but like there's been videos of Mars where they've shown like these channel roads cut out and all types of weird shit, and um, pyramid, and just to kind of pull it up, just to show you. Like think about, the Cydonia, like, so these are the different things that have been discovered on Mars, right? By satellite imaging, literal fucking pyramids. Look at that. Pyramids on Mars. So shit that reflect, just looks like fucking Giza and shit, people have thought they've seen the Sphinx and everything. Right here, look at that. See? And we all know about the face on Mars as well, you know. And this guy's seeing this shit, for the first time. He's seeing this shit, and he's seeing it in his mind's eye, right? Seeing this in his mind's eye. Imagine, you know, imagine being this guy, like not knowing what you're looking at, but seeing this old planet. And then isn't it interesting how, and this is kind of the thing that really blows me away. It's like how the guy is describing, and think about like shadow people and shit that are seen here on Earth, right? Like many people have described shadow people, right? Like skinwalkers. I don't even know if I should say that. There's something about when you say that, it kind of invokes them. So hopefully, but little people and skinwalkers and shit like that, and they're blacker than black, right? Darker than darkness type of shadow people. and he's talking about this, and think about, the ancient Sumerian text, right? And the tales of the Anunnaki, and how they talked about Mars being used as a way station on their way to Earth, right? Being used as a way station on their way to Earth. So it'd be like, and what is it? What's his name? Terrence Howard, who described our our solar system, and how there's a symmetry, right? With this system. And let's see if I can find this. But he talks about basically how it's a constant rate of expansion or vibration outward from the sun or the center. And that at one point in time, Mars was in the Goldilocks zone, then Earth, and the next one will be Venus, and so on and so forth, right? As the planets expand outward, right? And that all planets are at this, that they're traveling at this approximate speed and distance to put them right at this constant rate of expansion. Let's see if I can find it. Just a clip of it. Let's see. Right here. See, here it is. Mars was past.
Experian can cancel subscriptions you forget about, but still pay for. Who needs that more?
Me.
So Mars was past Earth.
Is drifting away from the sun.
Yeah, slightly.
This is the mistake I made at the Oxford. Because they wouldn't allow me to bring my notes or anything. So I said the drift was 6 inches a year. It's 0.6 inches a year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add up how long it would take the Earth to move, because in all of the planets in every solar system is drifting away from their primary at this same exact rate, like 1.5 centimeters. So this is a universal expansion that's happening with everything moving away. So them saying and the Webb telescope have proven that those galaxies couldn't have formed 13, 14 billion years ago. But if you would just add up linearly how long it would take the Earth to go from the sun to 93 million miles away, it's 9 trillion. Hold on.
Let's go.
I did all of the little calculations.
These are not little calculations.
This is the math. So it would, 5,280 feet in a mile, 12 inches in a foot. Therefore, it's 1 mile equals 63,360 inches. So the number of years that it will take for the Earth to move 1 mile is 105,600 years. So that in order for the Earth to reach where we are at 93 million miles, it would take 9,820,800 million years for the Earth to get here. Likewise, Mars, at 147 million miles away from the sun, it would take 15,780,480 million years for Mars to get where it was. So at a given point, Mars was here in the Goldilocks zone. And now Venus is going to inherit the Goldilocks zone next. The sun will give, Mercury is under a higher pressure because they're still under the mistake thinking that there's a void in space. So they forget that Mercury is under the highest pressure possible. So it can expand. It's like hydrogen. It's like those octaves before hydrogen. So the atmosphere, the iron isn't able to release any oxygen and the oxides. But when you get to 67 million miles away from the sun, the pressure is a little less, but it's still so much higher than the pressure on Earth. It's like going deep into the very belly of the Earth. That pressure is so very high. And so now the clouds, there's a great deal of sulfur, there's a great deal of ammonia and all of those.
So, I mean, you guys hear that, and hopefully you guys heard that. Hopefully the sound is working. Did you guys hear the sound on the video? Just let me know if you guys can hear the sound on the video. Those in the chat. Detected video in your stream belonging to someone else. What the fuck? Well, great. So hopefully they didn't block me. That would suck ass. Video sound was great. Yeah, well, that's so crazy. Look, they detected video belonging to someone else. They might block this video. That's bullshit. That's just crazy. But so like I was saying, we have like the scientific evidence, like he's talking about 1 million BC or whatever, right? Like, so he's talking about a long time before, and he's seeing the shadows of a culture that used to be there, right? So, and we think about like the Anunnaki and the gods, and that they were these giants. And like I said, these shadow people, blacker than black, right? Like, just kind of like think about some of this shit. You can really see where there's some logic involved to this too, where we're really getting, somewhere with all this. So here we go. Take some time and get back deep. See the intersecting whatever these are aqueduct type things. These rounded bottom carved channels like roadbeds. See pointed tops of something on the horizon. Even the horizon looks funny and weird. It's like a different, misty, like it's really far away, very vague. And these pointed tops, he's probably seeing these fucking pyramids, right? Okay. Another movement now to 80 degrees south, 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east, 64 degrees east. Move now, in this time, to 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east. See pyramids. Can't tell if it's an overlay or not because they're different. Okay. These pyramids have insides and outsides. Got both, and they're huge. It's really it's an interesting perception I'm getting. Think about that, dude. What this fucking dude's seeing. It's an interesting perception I'm getting, right? He's seeing the pyramids. I think that he's losing his ability to move accurately, but he is attracted to things that are interesting. So we're going to go with his own. We're going to let him go ahead and explore what seems to be interesting to him rather than move on the targets indicated here. It's filtered from storms or something. Say that again? They're like shelters from storms. These structures you're seeing? Yes, they're designed for that. All right. Go inside one of these and find some activity to tell me about. Plus 37 minutes real time. So he's 37 minutes in right now. Different chambers, but they're almost stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like a strictly functional place for sleeping, or that's not a good word. Hibernations, some form. I can't I get real raw inputs, storms, savage storm, and sleeping through storms. That's fucking crazy. So it's like these giant beings, and think about this. Like, this makes me think of like fucking Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right? When he's talking about what is it called? What do they call the underworld there? Shit. It was just saying they found it underneath the Great Pyramid, right? And he's talking about he's going down to go to sleep, right? He's he's sleeping but not sleeping, right? And that, he'll rise again mighty and potent. It's just weird that, so they're being described as hibernating through some type of period too. Like, these fucking beings are able to hibernate for long periods of time, and think about all the gods and how they talk about how they'll come back or they'll return, right? Tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. And what is it called, guys? Damn it, help me out here. Halls of Amenti. Thank you, Backass Weird World. Thank you. Halls of Amenti. That's absolutely no blockage. Good. Good. Thank you. Everybody hit that thumbs up for me too. If you guys are in the chat, it really does help. It pushes with the algorithms here on YouTube. I had to put my phone on airplane mode. I don't know if you guys are hearing it this time, but I kept picking up this fucking buzzing and audio frequency every time I do a live. So hopefully I'm not picking that up tonight because my phone's on airplane. So, and thank you, Kim, for doing a great job. But loud and clear, no blockage. Thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate all of you. So good. The video sounds great. So, and like I said, so this guy's seeing, right? He's seeing these pyramid structures, right? We already know that, we've had the halls of Amenti, told to, supposed to be this time and space traveler, right? Has talked about going down under the pyramids, right? In Egypt to do the same exact thing that he's talking about here. He's saying that they're hibernating in these fucking pyramids against some geomagnetic storms that are taking place on this planet, which is Mars, which the Anunnaki call their way station on the way to basically, colonize Earth. So it's like everything's kind of lining up here, So when the CIA, the wiki or whatever, talking about how Project Stargate was basically bullshit, it's like, was it really though? This guy's doing this without any. This is a cold reading here. He had no idea. He's just getting, they're just telling him these longitudes and latitudes, and he's just zooming himself to it, So here we go. Tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. Very tall again, very large people, but they're thin. They look thin because of their height, and they dress like it's like a real light silk, but it's not a flowing type of clothing. It's like cut to fit, and that makes me think of so silk and shit like that, like the different fabrics. Allow for different energies like polyester and shit like blocks energy in, and cotton and all this is like trash for energetic flow of our bodies, and it's like pure silk and shit like that. Those are like the fine that actually allow positive energy to flow into the body. So it's interesting that they're wearing this type of stuff, right? And you see all of the people, our ancients here on earth, doing similar things. Move close to one of them and ask them to tell you about themselves. They're ancient people. They're dying. It's past their time or age. Tell me about this. They're very philosophic about it. They're looking for a way to survive, and they just can't. Plus 40 minutes. Definite voltage reversal. Which is weird. What does that mean? Definite voltage reversal. What does that mean? Like he's reversing polarity or something like that. I can't, can't seem to get their way out. They can't seem to find their way out. So they're hanging on while they look or wait for something to return or something coming with the answer. What is this they're waiting for? There evidently was a group or a party of them that went to find a new place to live. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input of the corruption of their environment. It's failing very rapidly. And this group went somewhere, like a long way, to find another place to live. What was the cause of the atmospheric disturbance or the environment disturbance? I see a picture of like it's like a warp, and oh god, this is difficult. It's like going, let's see, the raw data. Oh, I get a globe, and it's like a globe that goes through a comet's tail, or it's through a river of something, but it's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures. All right. Now, before you leave this individual, ask him if there is any way that ask him if he knows who you are, and is there any way you can help him in his present predicament? All I can get is that they must just wait. Doesn't know who I am. Think he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. Okay. When the others left, these people are waiting. When the others left, how did they go? Get an impression of don't know what the hell it is. Looks like the inside of a large boat. Very rounded walls and shiny and metal. It's fucking wild, dude. This is so wild. Like when you think about it, it's like that sounds like a UFO, right? A shiny metal ball, the inside of a shiny metal ball. It's like they left in a UFO. And this atmospheric cosmic river, like with a comet's tail in a sphere. It's like time travel or a Stargate or a wormhole or something that they traveled through. It's just fucking crazy. Get an impression of don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat. Very rounded walls and shiny metal. And also think about the Anunnaki, that way station on the way to Earth, right? Go along with them on their journey and find out where it is they go. Impression of a really crazy place. Volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it, and different kind of storm. All right, it's time to come back now to the sound of my voice into the present time to right now, 22nd of May, 1984. The sound of my voice moved back now to the room, back to the sound of my voice, back further now to the sound of my voice on the 22nd of May, 1984. Now, I want you to think about this, especially this last part here. He went to Earth. That's Earth, dude, right? That's what we're told prehistoric Earth is like. Okay? This really volatile, crazy place with volcanoes, gas pockets, strange fucking plants, right? A volatile place, right? It's a jungle, it's humid, and everything's large and, very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it, and a different kind of storm. So, like they're like experiencing these dry geomagnetic storms, and it's just nothing but sand and death where they're trying to hibernate under these pyramids, right? In the old place, this wave station, as they're waiting to find a place to settle and live, right? Which would be like the Anunnaki gods, these very tall, giants, right? Shadows of people. So it's like their essence, right? Their dark essence, these negatively charged ions. And keep in mind too, when they show, I'm like, I think it's like 22 or 12 millimeter film where they can like literally look at people's auras, right? The way they're able to see auras is because the negatively charged ions in the atmosphere around our body. So the reason I believe he's seeing them as shadows is because we don't actually have physical bodies anyways, right? These are just mere projections anyways, right? It's our consciousness that inhabits the vehicles because we probably live in a simulation anyways, right? So he's seeing the negatively charged ions, so like a shadow aspect, right, of the consciousness of these gods, of these deities, or whatever that, genetically altered and made humanity. The Elohim, the Anunnaki, the Gigi, whatever, right? So, and this is just my theory of this, thus far what we heard. And he's seeing like all of the pyramids and everything that was created there as this way station on the way to Earth, and they're there waiting, right? And this dry, static, electromagnetic, geomagnetic storms and crazy chaos, right? Of this dying planet, and then they come in, through some type of wormhole or Stargate or whatever, right? And what we call, UFOs or their ships, um, they come into Earth in like a prehistoric Earth, right? Before it's, you know, been settled down and, things were still large and giant and shit like that. It's like where they tame the Earth, they build the pyramids and all of that. It's just a very, very fucking wild, uh to me anyways. I don't know what you guys think about that, but to me it's just very, very fucking wild. Yeah. Yes, and exactly. Chrono Crucified says high frequency fabrics. That's exactly what they are, is high frequency fabrics. That's exactly what they are. Um, let's see what they. Let's pull that up too while we're at it, just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. Thank you for saying that, bro. High frequency fabrics. See, there you go. Here we go. These are high frequency fabrics. You can see 100% linen, and the worst is polyester, right? And see silk, 100% silk, cotton, like the linen, and silk are like the best fabrics to allow light and energy to breathe, right? So, and then I think it's like 12 millimeter. Yeah, to be able to nebula white luminary film. Hold on, let's just pull this up on. There is a 22. I'm not sure. What is it? Nah, I might be wrong about the millimeter here. It might be 22. I was watching something the other day. But it shows you, like, whenever, a person is with a dog has an aura. Here. Film showing shit. And you can see the fucking auras. Real human aura recordings. Here we go. This is it right here. Bioenergy fields. This is it. And you can see it's green, yellow, these different, and this allegedly, blue light is one of the biggest disruptors of our geomagnetic shit, of our auric fields, of our immunity, everything, right? And that's what's in LEDs and all this. So Obama, when he sent us into the digital age, when we were no longer allowed to use analog and the old light bulbs, which were yellow, they had like yellow and red light and all that. And when your phone even shifts to red light at night, it's not the same red light that, is actually used. It's all to like keep us in that blue light because we're more susceptible to hypnosis and mind control and programming and sickness and all this under blue light.
The
16
following
millimeter
film shows the
film.
human energy field radiating outward from the body. It dynamically changes based on the physical conditions, the feeling states, the motivations of the person, in interaction with energy radiation from objects and living things. The existence of the human energy field, or the aura, was validated and studied by over 12 years of high-frequency recordings. This film shows the field not ordinarily seen, but now visible. Like all
And I'm going to try to just, stop these after like 24 seconds. That way YouTube don't slap me again. But you can see like each one of these, and I'm going to let this play out here in a second. Each one of these, you're going to see the auras of the people. You're going to see them with animals and in nature and the difference of the energy around them. And this is the negatively charged ions or particles around us that you're picking up on. So that's why. And notice, you see the aura, but what do you see here? It's like a shadow. Dude in his remote viewing, what did they appear as? It's like staticky shadow shit, right?
living things, this little dog has a sizable radiant field, even when he sits quietly. Notice now, as he greets his master, the obvious love and affection between them increases the dynamic radiation from their bodies, even the dog's tail and the man's head. No wonder so many people have pets who give them pleasure and provide a vital field of energy to interact with. Wherever there is motion in the universe, there is increased flow in the field that humans interact with. See the explosive activity from the waves and from his body. Also, the electromagnetic field of the body is negatively charged or ionized, as are waves or tumbling water, which further expands and heightens his field, giving a physical exuberance and emotional excitement. No wonder that a day at the beach is so exhilarating and vitalizing. We all love a babbling brook and the freshness of outdoor vegetation and mountains. Most of us believe that it is relaxation and beauty which refreshes us.
Look at that.
From our research, we have discovered that living plants and rarefied
Look at that.
atmosphere provide a richer field of negative ions, which heightens and replenishes our own energy field. Notice that the man's field becomes light in color and high in frequency. It sparkles and radiates some distance from his body.
There you go.
See that as the child moves into the mother's field,
There you go. So you can
the
see.
affection between them changes the overall field to a pink color. Individuals' fields blend and enhance when there is a warm, caring relationship. These energy fields are the large.
And she's probably, and I believe also the aura, it's probably shown different through the clothes they're wearing too, like allows it to expand out more. But, and think about like the different chakras, right? And we've seen like blue colors, red colors, right? These correlate to the different chakras. And you can almost like the heart, the root chakra, family, right? Children, love, right? Like all of this. And she's showing this pinkish red color. I'm just saying this shit is just wild when you really start thinking about it, because it's like, all of these things that we think are pseudoscience,
the whitest that we have
are pseudoscience. And we're taught to believe or be skeptical about, or that there's no credibility to these things. We're seeing that there's really more evidence to back this shit up, that it's real, than anything you can actually than anybody's ever been told, right? Like as far as all of this goes. So yeah, it is pretty. Horrible screeching sound. Well, that was in the video, so sorry, not on me. And looking at the Stargate project, which we will go back to the gateway in just a moment, and then we're going to look at the battle for the First Earth Battalion operations guideline field manual. This is like the men who stare at goats. So just we'll actually play this real quick. This is just the trailer for the movie. You guys have probably seen the movie. This came out in 2009. George Clooney.
My name is Bob Wilton. I'm a journalist. I've been investigating a story about a classified government program.
So what you're saying is that you were a psychic spy? a Jedi warrior.
I'd heard that the US government was training psychic soldiers, and that Lynn Cassidy was the best of the best.
I've been reactivated. I'm on a mission.
I could come. Lynn's story was unbelievable, crazy, and completely true.
We have to dream a new America that no longer has an exploitative view of everyone. You will be a psychic weapon. Feel it, yes! You must create warrior monks who can pass through walls and see into the future.
Congratulations, Scotty. Sorry it doesn't work out between you two.
What are you doing?
Cloud bursting keeps me in shape. And it's gone.
Geez, you had like the whole desert to drive in, Lynn. Please. Thank you for picking us up.
How are we going to stop them? They've got guns. We're Jedi. We don't fight with guns. We fight with our minds.
Holy.
I went looking for a story, and my friend Lynn brought me an adventure.
It's okay, we're Americans. We're here to help you.
What happened?
I think I just ran him over. Oh, crap.
And I guess that part really happened. Like the guy really did like walk into this experiment or whatever, touch the goat, drag the motherfucker, over in front of him, goes in, and they said immediately, like like the eyewitnesses said immediately, like you could see the ghost or the goat start to like wobble, like experiencing vertigo, and then within moments just fucking dropped straight over and died in agony. So it wasn't like fucking it wasn't something nice to see, I guess. And here is right here the warrior monk's vision. I envision an international ideal of service awakening in an emerging class of people who are best called evolutionaries. I see them as soldiers, as youth, and as those who have soldier spirit within them. I see them come together in the name of people and planet to create a new environment of support for the Earth Mother. Their mission is to protect the possible and nurture the potential. They are the evolutionary guardians who focus their loving protection and affirm their allegiance to people and planet for their own good and for the good of those they serve. I call them evolutionaries, not revolutionaries, for they are potentialists, not pragmatists. They are pioneers, not palace guards. As their contribution to a hopeful future, the warrior monks bring evolutionary tactics. They recognize that the world community of peoples demands hope from those who would operate as servants of the people. Services rendered by the warriors of the 1st Earth Battalion are specifically designed to generate workable solutions to defuse a nuclear time bomb, promote international relations, spread wise energy use, enforce the ecological balance, assist wise technological expansion, and above all, stress human development. Armies are both the potential instruments of our destruction and the organized service that can drive humanity's potential development. They are the turnkey organizations that could either shift the energy of our world into a positive, synergistic convergence or bring us to the brink of the void. We have no choice but to encourage world armies to accept and express the nobility they already strive to attain. I can see their action expanding to include evolutionary work like planting vast new forests, completing large canal projects, helping in the towns, helping to clean up the inner cities, and working with the troubled inner city youth and young commando groups, and working harmoniously with other nations to see that the plentiful resources of our Mother Earth are equally shared by all peoples. This will not, be the first time that warrior monks have been active. In Vedic traditions, the warrior monk was a philosopher, a teacher, and therefore a powerful transformational player. In the Chinese culture, the warrior was both a healer and a teacher of martial arts. History affirms our own belief that there is no contradiction in the warrior and the service-oriented monk prototypes living in a completely harmonious, blended, and parallel path when the basic ethic and service is loving protection of evolution and humankind. There is no contradiction in having armies of the world experience the same ethic as they evolve in peaceful cooperation towards the greater good of all. It is sometimes difficult to determine how we have set ourselves against each other as nations, and even the more frustrating when we realize that the people of these nations are not really very different inside and in foot have the same desires for growth and environmental balance and for prosperity that we have. But this is reality. And soldiers who have grown up in an arms race world are obviously doing their job of protection when they come up with a new and more effective weapons package. But it is time for another approach. The use of all this military power for another end. It is time to give as much reward for the evolutionary contribution made by a soldier or an army as we have given in the past for the destructive contributions made on behalf of national defense. I know that this process will begin with the transformation of soldiers and evolutionaries everywhere on the face of our planet home. There are young men and women who already aspire to this level of service and who are ready to make a permanent commitment. They will begin to meet in small groups to provide a support system for personal transformation and group members on a small scale. These groups will begin selected evolutionary programs into their units and their communities. This manual serves as a handbook for the development of these evolutionary players and the development of their operating teams. All national level armies will begin to cooperate on ventures that stabilize the nuclear balance of terror. Joint teams could then patrol space and counter local terrorist activities that threaten stability in any given area. Evolved cooperation will stifle the arms race. Cooperation between the Soviets and American military could ensure that neither side flies off the handle in direct collision in some local arena of tension, which would precipitate both sides into major nuclear war. And there are precedents for this type of cooperation unknown to the public. The US and Soviet military have partied together in Potsdam. They have exchanged academics at the staff college level, and they have viewed each other's military exercises in recent years. The great flow of historical events, habits, and international relations is not easy to change. It will take the patient, focused, loving, and dedicated effort of warriors all over the world, people with different languages and cultures, and all examples of humanity's infinite variety of expression. What I present in this manual is a small contribution to what surely must be a hope for peace and prosperity that lives in all hearts everywhere. It is not a set system of beliefs and ideas. It is a smorgasbord of new functional ideas. As you respond to these insights, you will be able to adjust them to your own operating style. They should flow into your culture and respond to your country's point of view. An elaboration on these ideas can then come from your own study. They must work for everyone in some way, or they won't really work. So you kind of hear that. That's the Earth Battalion declares its primary allegiance to people and planet. So, this is supposed to be like the pamphlet or whatever. Which you can see, this is not what ended up being adopted by militaries across the world, right? We're still doing the same exact shit, but just at a way fucking higher level than we ever were before. But you can see that we cooperate quite a bit now. So we're going to go, okay. So where do I want to do this? We're going to go back to Gateway and read some more of these, these different techniques for hypnosis and shit like that. And then we are going to get into some more of, the different experiments.
A decade earlier, psychologist Stanley Milgram had also...
Not here.
Day until May 1st. We start on Monday, March 31st.
And how?
In a week, you'll...
This was like one... how he was able to remote view. They took images. This is the CIA once again. This is 1972. They took images, put them in an envelope, and then had him draw, what he was seeing. Right. So this is another one of the more famous ones. He's a magician. He's, still, and people say he's a charlatan or anything. The bottom line is he's a good mentalist and a magician, and he knew how to do this. And every time he got one of these images, they were like a mirrored view of the images. We're going to look at other different ways of how these kind of things have been taken as well. Other people that claim to have or be in touch with alien consciousness, such as the Heaven's Gate cult, right? We're going to look at some of their initiation tapes and what the messages they were using to recruit people into the cult. So I've got a few still more interesting things to share with you guys tonight as we kind of move into this. So back to gateway process, and I'm going to bounce into this because I don't want to overload you with just nonstop information. So we're going to bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Hopefully that works for you. I just want to try to keep it interesting. So the biofeedback, which is the third consciousness altering methodology. So we've already went through a few consciousness altering methodologies. Hypnosis. What did we go through? Yeah, we went through hypnosis, transcendental meditation, which was also the Kundalini psychosis or transcendence. Now we are at biofeedback, and we have also looked into remote viewing. So biofeedback is the third consciousness altering methodology, which will be briefly described as biofeedback. Biofeedback is somewhat unique in that it actually employs the self-cognitive powers of the left hemisphere to gain access to such areas of the right brain as the lower cerebral, motor, and sensory cortices and assorted pain or pleasure centers. Instead of suppressing the left hemisphere as is done in hypnosis, or largely bypassing and ignoring it as is done in transcendental meditation, biofeedback teaches the left hemisphere first to visualize the desired result and then to recognize the feelings associated with the experience of successful right hemisphere access to the specific lower cerebral cortex, pain or pleasure or other areas in the manner needed to produce the desired result. Special self-monitoring devices such as the digital thermometer are used to inform the left brain when it succeeds in keying the right hemisphere into accessing the appropriate area. Once this is done, the left brain can then repeatedly instruct the right brain to reestablish the pathways involved so as to produce the same external objective measures of success. In this way, the pathways are strengthened and emphasized to such an extent that left brain consciousness is enabled to access appropriate areas in the right brain using a conscious demand mode. And a lot of people believe this too when they're doing hypnosis. They believe that you can reprogram every cell in your fucking body because they all have memory. Remember, water holds memory. We've seen, what is it? Dr. Miramoto or whatever, the Japanese doctor that showed like the water freezing and shit where they would speak to it, so not only through our conscious intention can we direct reality. Our thoughts create reality. Our conscious intention directs reality. Water holds memory. We are 70% water. The earth is 70% water. So we can literally direct the cells in our body, which hold memory, right, through our intention, right, and create neural pathways, grooves, if you will, within our brain to do something over and over and over again by training ourselves. Okay. For example, if the subject wishes to increase the circulation in the left leg in order to speed up healing, he may concentrate with his left brain on achieving that result by carefully monitoring a digital thermometer connected to the left leg. When the concentrated effort begins to achieve success, the digital thermometer will register an increase in the sensations experienced with the result achieved and can begin to emphasize by memory recall the same process to cause its strengthening by affirmation and repetition. And remember, repetition is the number one tool of mind control too, right? So they are reaffirming a neural pathway, right? Whether it's a lie or not, this is how propaganda works and shit too, guys. So just saying, right? And that's through the left brain. You know, you're watching through television, which is a form of electromagnetic frequency and visualization, which is also part of hypnosis and shit too. So it's what do they call it? Something stimuli. Subliminal stimuli. Yeah, subliminal stimuli. So, in this way, pain can be blocked, healing can be enhanced, malignant tumors can apparently be suppressed and ultimately destroyed. The body's pleasure centers can be stimulated, and a variety of specific physiological results may be achieved. In addition, biofeedback may be used to greatly accelerate achievements of deep meditative states, particularly for beginners who have no experience in meditative techniques and whose progress in that methodology is enhanced through effective visualization and external objective affirmation. Display of the subject's brainwave patterns on a cathode ray tube may be proven to be a laboratory validated means by which subjects may quickly learn to place themselves in profoundly relaxed states characterized by the sort of quietude and singularity of mental focus associated with advanced meditation. Now we come to gateway and hemisync. Now that we've briefly profiled the basic mechanics of the principal techniques for altering or expanding consciousness, which share some of the objectives and or methods employed in the gateway experience, we may proceed to focus on what that technique actually involves. Fundamentally, the gateway experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres so as to alter consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. The participant then gains access to various levels of intuitive knowledge which the universe offers. What differentiates the gateway experience from forms of meditation is its use of the hemisync technique, which is defined as a monograph by Monroe Institute trainer Melissa Yager as a state of consciousness defined when the EEG patterns of both hemispheres are simultaneously equal in amplitude and frequency. Although hemisync seems to be rather rare and of only short duration in ordinary human consciousness, Melissa Yager states that audio techniques developed by Bob Monroe can induce and sustain hemisync with the Institute's basic Focus 3 tapes. She also notes, studies conducted by Elmer and Alice Green at the Menninger Foundation have shown that it is a subject with 20 years of training in Zen meditation could consistently establish hemisync at will, sustaining it for over 15 minutes. Dr. Stuart Twemlow, a psychiatrist and research associate of the Monroe Institute, reports that in our studies of the effects of the Monroe tape system on brainwaves, we have found that the tapes encourage the focusing of brain energy, and it can be measured as with a light bulb in watts into a narrower and narrower frequency band. This focusing of energy is not unlike the yoga concept of one-pointedness, which we may translate into Western terms as a single-mindedness. Dr. Twemlow goes on to observe that as the individual gets into the tapes beyond Focus 3, there is a gradual increase in brainwave size, which is a measure of brain energy or power. And we're going to look at raw contact. I'm going to let you hear like the original raw tapes too of her actually doing the channeling. But let's just kind of hear a little bit from Bob Monroe himself.
Real process is the teaching of mental. Also, it's an exploration,
We're just going to listen to a couple minutes of this, and it's very grainy. It's an old
may not show up for weeks and perhaps months. Gateway in and of itself is properly defined as, say, a means of freedom, a new kind of freedom that perhaps you've never before experienced in your life. a chance at this new kind of freedom. Also, it's an exploration, say, of consciousness, and most particularly your consciousness. How does it do this? Well, I'm sure you're aware of, right at this particular moment, what we call hemisync, or hemisync, a loose term that we use for hemispheric synchronization, which is what you're here to do, to experience the process of hemispheric synchronization. If you don't know about it, perhaps I should hand out some brochures that tell you what hemisync is. Suffice to say that it is a method. It is one of the tools, and perhaps the basic tool that we use in Gateway. And speaking of tools, that's what the real process is the teaching of mental tools to achieve this freedom that we speak of. And that freedom can only be expressed by your own consciousness, not mine, not any of the people who help you go through this gateway process. It comes from your own actions.
Now, I want you to think about that too. This is going to be how different you're going to see a recurring theme too. Like when we look at cult activity as opposed to genuine conscious or spiritual enhancement or liberation, right? Advancement, whatever, the process of ascension, whatever you want to call it. You're going to see that, and this is what, at least my opinion, whenever we're tapping into ourselves, right? Like and enhancing our own abilities and, you see the sharpening of our own gifts, our own tools, and real valid results. But whenever we become dependent upon others outside of ourselves, that's when we seem to get in trouble, right? And and I couldn't do tonight's show without looking at channeling shit too, because it's so prevalent now. And to me, Heaven's Gate is which we'll get into shortly. I can't wait, actually. I think it's just fucking wild, the Heaven's Gate cult, because and people they're so used to seeing the images of the creepy fucking guy that ran Heaven's Gate that they think, oh well, it's just, I could have never possibly fallen for that. But I promise you, when you hear the initiation tapes, it's gonna sound a fuck ton like content creators I've listened to, like shit that people say today. It sounds just like it, and you can see where this entire new age, new thought movement spun out of all that. And it's all about the ETs and the aliens and, higher consciousness and claiming to be Christ and just all of it. So it's wild shit, it's wild shit. So, but as we move forward here, and we can see, there's been different forms of this. The First Earth Battalion, which were, the men who stare at goats, right? Waco Siege, Heaven's Gate, Project 68. The Stargate project has so many different sub projects under it, right? And then MK Ultra is also part of this as well, right? So. Which was human experimentation designed and undertaken by the CIA once again. And this is brainwashing and psychological torture. And this is through hypnosis, sensory deprivation, verbal, sexual abuse, drugs. This is just like all the different ways. It's like they've explored using this in a variety of ways, right? For good and for evil. So let's go next to, we'll show the Uri Geller, and then we're going to jump into the Heaven's Gate. So just going to show you just a little bit more of the remote viewing here. And this is the Uri Geller experiment. Where's it at? Yeah, anyone wants some Kool-Aid? Exactly. And it's because, and watch, man, I'm telling you, this shit's wild, dude. It's so Uri Geller. I like to just give the, you know, okay. So Uri Geller, Israeli British, so he's probably Mossad and all that. Illusionist, magician, television personality, self-proclaimed psychic, known for his trademark television performances of spoon bending and other illusions. Uses conjuring tricks to stimulate the effects of psychokinesis and telepathy. Right, and he had these experiences. I believe it's 1972, something like that. Yeah, 1972. I'm not going to show the whole thing, just a little bit here.
Stanford Research Institute has been conducting an
And we know Stanford is in bed with the CIA too. They do all types of different research for the CIA.
experimental program in the field of psychoenergetic effects. We do not seek only to add to a catalog of interesting events. Rather, the purpose is to apply objective scientific analysis in the study of these reported phenomena to determine whether a pattern of cause and effect relationships can be established of the type more familiar in the physical sciences. This film describes a 5-week investigation conducted at Stanford Research Institute with Uri Geller, a young Israeli. The film portrays experiments that we performed with him just as they were carried out. Each scene has been taken from film footage made during actual experiments. Nothing has been restaged or specially created. It is not the purpose of the film to demonstrate any purported psychic abilities of Mr. Geller, but rather to demonstrate the experiments done with him and his response to the experimental situation. This is Uri Geller. One of the types of demonstrations that Geller likes to do is to sit with a group of people and attempt to send a number to various people in the room. With Uri Geller, this is Edgar Mitchell, who, with his eyes covered, is trying to pick up the number that Geller is sending. Also, we see Wilbur Franklin of Kent State, Harold Putoff, and Russell Targ of SRI, along with Don Schuick, Vice President for Research at SRI. Dr. Schuick is trying to receive and then write down the number that Geller is sending. In this case, Schuick is successful in picking up the number. Of course, this is not a laboratory experiment since the activity is completely under Geller's control. Here we show a series of experiments where previously 15 drawings were placed in double-sealed envelopes in a safe for which none of the experimenters had the combination. It took signatures of both the key researchers to remove a drawing at random from the collection in the safe. One of the researchers would then, in this case Targ, look at the drawing outside the experimental room, reseal the envelope, enter the experimental room, whence Geller's task was to draw what he perceived in the envelope. This is Geller's representation of what he believed was sealed in the envelope. At no time during these experiments did he have any advanced knowledge of the target material. As far as he is concerned, these could be drawings of any kind, whether a design or a representational picture. In fact,
Look at that.
this is the most off-target of the drawings that he did.
That's the most off target. And like I was saying at the very beginning of all this, you know, in the telepathy tapes, these people, it's called something, apexia or aprexia or something like that, where their consciousness is basically disconnected from the body. And it gives these people the ability to have telepathy, even to the point to where they can like mesh their consciousness with the people that help them read, right? Whether that be their parents or their teacher or whatever. And they have these strong telepathic and spiritual abilities, right? And Geller, what you're going to see, and we're just going to look at another minute of this. I mean, just as this side note, just because it goes along with the theme of all this, almost everything that he does, though, is like a mirrored version of what the drawing is, and he nails a bunch of them. He only passes on, I think, like 20%, right? So, as in the most accurate remote viewer that did the Mars exploration, he was accurate in 20% of those, right? Where they were just giving him the coordinates, okay? And then in this, he was passing on 20% and was accurate in almost all the ones that he took, right? So way higher percent of accuracy, but it's a form of mentalism instead of the remote viewing, right? So we have these different form, hypnosis, OBE, astral projection, right? These different forms of shifting our consciousness to be able to project in different ways to view image, which, anybody that kind of studies consciousness, kind of has this understanding of, and this is why we're going to take it into the alien realm next, because it's like, are we, in fact, alien consciousness inhabiting our physical body or giving manifestation to physicality? And we know, especially on this channel, that in the book of Genesis, it says that we were made in the image of the Elohim image. And we look at the Hebraic roots, it means a phantom, a projection, an illusion, right? So looking at the simulation hypothesis or the simulation theory, it's saying like we are living in a simulation, right? A consciousness simulation. And in this consciousness simulation, our consciousness is controlling the player, the character, right? Which is our avatar, our body, right? And it's a shadow or a reflection, right? A specter, right? Of what we're seeing. And that's why, with the 22 millimeter film, we can see the aura, because of negatively charged ions is what kind of like draws everything to us through our consciousness. We're actively imposing upon the reality through the spectrum of light, right? Which, we look at like the treatises on the 7 rays and shit like that. We've talked about all this stuff through the occult and esoteric studies on this channel, right? So it all kind of comes together and really makes sense when we look at this, So if we have the ability to inhabit these avatars, and we've grown accustomed, and at one point in time, looking at the ages of the pyramids and the Vimanas and, Tartaria and all these different structures where we use sound and consciousness and, was far more in tune with the Schumann resonance and the Earth's frequency. And we're using bells and all these different things. Have we kind of like, forgotten as we've taken a dip in consciousness through the Piscean age, how to navigate outside of the physical self? And that's why in the telepathy tapes, these people that have this, disability that aren't really attached consciously to their physical self, are tapped in to these extrasensory, right, abilities and gifts. And it's like we are learning as we're going into this Aquarian age, and we're getting more back into a collective state along with technology, right? To tap into these abilities. And then people that perform mentalism and all these different abilities, remote viewing, right, which we thought was a rare or random occurrence, and pseudoscience and all this is inherent in each and every one of us, right? We're just now learning to tap back into it.
Here, the experiment is repeated, this time with Puthoff as a sender, just to check that the identity of the sender is of no significance in the experiment. Additionally, all experiments are tape recorded to guard against any verbal cueing on the part of the experimenters. This is a drawing that Geller has made to correspond to the target object. The rectangle on the clipboard represents the TV screen in Geller's mind on which he claims to project the image he is trying to draw. As you can see, he is quite elated about getting the right answer. Before he does this, it is usually preceded by several minutes of, "I can't do this. It's impossible. I want to stop. Let's wait."
Right. which, is he stealing the image, from their consciousness, or is he, and in his particular experiment, which I'm done with this one, now I'm going to move forward because I just want to do the alien consciousness now, which we're getting to Ra and Heaven's Gate and all that. So is he stealing this out of the consciousness? I'm going to go to the chat on this. I want to see some of your guys' shit. Is he stealing this from people's consciousness, like picking up on this, like, tapping into some conscious image that's in their mind? Or is, he like picking up from cues when he's saying like, I can't do this. And, is he like looking for certain movements of the eyes or body language or, or whatever. Right. Let's see some of the, Amun Ra says, for real, it does though. You think he, which I heard in Utah, they have now removed fluoride from the water. So that's the first state to do that, by the way. Nazi Germany initially were the ones who started adding fluoride to the water. Yeah, well, it's supposed to calcify the pineal gland, but I guess in Utah, Utah, they just do a lot of shit, don't they? They have like 20 wives and fucking all of it. But anyways, I'm interested to hear people's thoughts, though. If you got, I will be checking back over here into the chat. So let me know what you think about these different experiments, these different, states of consciousness. Now we're going to go to Heaven's Gate. So this is what I've been waiting on. I'm sorry, and see, I've got a cool article here too. It's saying, is your mind just a parasite on your physical body? Because we have the mind, which is constantly, and the ego, which is constantly like this poisonous program, like reinforcing individuality, me, right? Like doubt, all of this, right? And then we have this, divine feminine, inner knowing, pure spiritual self that's more of like the observer of all this taking place. And then we have the projection, which is the physical body, right? Experiencing a mix of all of it, mind, body, soul. And then you have people, which we're going to get into the channeling after the Heaven's Gate, right? Where are claiming to channel alien consciousness. So not their own consciousness, right? Doing these different things, but outside external consciousness, right? So is it disembodied parasitic consciousness feeding on their consciousness? Okay. See, Heaven's Gate is gone, but the group is gone, but the religion lives on, which we're going to look at that too. We're going to look at their fucking, their website and everything. We got altered consciousness, studies reveal hypnosis alters brain activity and neurochemistry, all of it. So here we go. Heaven's Gate. And this is part one. And this guy, if you look at his fucking eyes, he is whacked out looking. But I want you to pay attention to what he's talking about. And if you've heard this before, you ain't heard it on this channel, I don't think. I don't think I've ever done Heaven's Gate on here. But I just want you to listen to the things that he's saying and how closely you associate this. And this is initiation tapes. I might do part two. I don't know. We're going to try to go back and forth here. I want to try to cover as much shit as possible. So, but I want you to kind of think of like the new age stuff, and especially like these, like Pleiadian movements and, Arcturians and all these shit. Like, and I've always been hard on them, I know, but there's a reason, because I don't feel like, it's going to something outside of ourselves. I feel like that's where we always get into trouble,
Classroom, or in old language, a couple thousand years ago, disciples, those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry into the evolutionary level above human.
And hold on, let me give you just the rundown of Heaven's Gate. So Heaven's Gate was an American new religious movement known primarily for the mass suicides committed by its members in 1997. Commonly designated a cult, it was founded in 1974 by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, known within the movement as Do and T, or Ty, I think it's Ty or T. Nettles and Applewhite first met in 1972 and went on a journey of spiritual discovery, identifying themselves as the two witnesses of the book of Revelation, attracting a following of several hundred people in the mid-70s. In 76, a core group of a few dozen members stopped recruiting and instituted a monastic lifestyle. Scholars have described the theology of Heaven's Gate as a mixture of Christian millennialism, New Age, and ufology, and it has been characterized as a UFO religion. And think about all the disclosure and just everything, guys. I'm telling you, it's wild. It's continued and just like evolved into different shit, right? So the central belief of the group was that the followers could transform themselves, ascend, into immortal extraterrestrial beings by rejecting their human nature, and they would ascend to heaven, referred to as the next level or the evolutionary level above human. The death of Nettles from cancer in 85 challenged the group's views on ascension. While they originally believed that they would ascend to heaven while alive aboard a UFO, they came to believe that the body was merely a container or vehicle for the soul and that their consciousness would be transferred to next level bodies upon death. On March 26, 1997, deputies of the San Diego County, which, we're coming up on what, it's been like how many years since this happened? Just recently, it's March 30th or some shit. So discovered the bodies of 39 active members of the group, including Applewhite, and a house in San Diego County suburb of Rancho Santa Fe. They participated in coordinated series of ritual suicides, coinciding with the closest approach of Comet Hale-Bopp, which many people believe was Nibiru or, whatever also, or the Harbinger, comet before Nibiru. So just which, Nibiru correlating to these end of the ages, which kind of takes us back to the beginning. This, like the Mayan calendar, the end of the Baktuns, like in 2012. Or they're called Shars with the Anunnaki, right? And what many people believe now, which I think is not true, we have evolutionary cycles, and instead of 25,000 years, I think they're actually, these Shars are correlate to like 26 million years would be like the real correlation of this dark star. So that's just my beliefs. And if you think about like Terrence Howard talking about us being like fucking 10 trillion years old, that makes a whole lot more sense. That means we've been here way fucking longer than what we think. So just before the mass suicide, the group's website was updated with the message: Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with Ty's crew. So, and I want you to notice too, like when we were looking at the first one, right? 22 has been a huge recurring theme. May 22, right? All these different coordinates, a lot of them ended in 22 as well, right? See, 0.212, 0.2222, right? All of them were 0.222222, which is a weird thing. Just saying, like we're seeing a lot of things with the 22 number. So, and we know that these are master numbers in numerology, and 22 is a number of the builder. So here we go. Let's get into the Heaven's Gate now. Hopefully, whoops, shit. We'll go Heaven's Gate. Whoops. Here we go.
You built this?
It was easy once I found the parts.
Looks like you need a break. The General gives you one with Flex.
Classroom, or in old language, a couple thousand years ago, disciples. Those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry into the evolutionary level above human, synonymous with the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. We're going to talk to you about the most urgent thing that is on our mind, and what we suspect is the...
And I just looked at this guy's fucking eyes. He just looks so whacked out of his head. It's not funny, for one. He's like, and for two, I want you to pay attention to the language. It's the language that gets me, right? It's, think of like content creators that you've listened to, spiritual gurus, new age gurus, right? Christian collective consciousness. Listen to it and just think of like the different folks that use this kind of language, and like people you even see now on YouTube, and you know, the different alien groups and shit. Just, that's all I want to ask you to do.
The most urgent thing on the minds of those who will connect with us. We'll title this tape Planet Earth About to be Recycled. Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us. Now, that's pretty major statement, pretty bold in terms of religion, in terms of anybody's intelligent thinking. To most people who would consider themselves intelligent beings, that say, well, that's absurd. What's all this doomsday stuff? What's all this prophetic stuff? You know, intelligent human beings should realize that everything has their cycle. They have their season. They have their beginning. They have their end. They have cycles. We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end. We're saying that planet Earth is about to be refurbished, spaded under, and have another chance to serve as a garden for another human civilization. Now, the reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization, because it's about to be recycled, but because of where that finds us, where that finds you, where that finds those who would judge us, how we would speak of them and how they would speak of us. Now, you keep saying us. Who do you think you are? Well, I, in all honesty, must acknowledge my father. My father is not a human father. My father is a member of the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. My father gave me, long before this civilization, gave me birth into that kingdom level above human, that kingdom of heaven, that kingdom of God. Now you can say, well, I can't believe that. Well, it's up to you whether you believe that or not. That's not important to me, even though I wish that you could believe it for your sake. For those who do believe it, stand a possibility of a future beyond this recycling time. Now you say, well, according to religious literature, I thought there was someone else that was going to come and be our savior here at these end days, that was going to be Christ's return. Well, the name Christ might be a little confusing, or the name Jesus, because the name Jesus, of course, was the name given to the body that mind that was indeed from the kingdom of heaven came. And that mind was here 2,000 years ago, and that mind came for the express purpose of teaching humans how they could be saved, how they would not be plowed under at the end of the age. Well, we're at the end of the age. So the one, or the mind that was in Jesus, what? That mind is in me?
The mind that was in Jesus, that mind is in me. See, we see this. This is a very common theme now. Like nothing he's saying. I mean, even though he's a fucking weirdo, and he looks creepy. He looks kind of like a pedo, right? A PDF. Even though he looks like that, and his eyes are a little whacked out. Looks like he's on LSD or something, but doesn't sound like too far fetched. My father, the Heavenly Father. I can remember, people that really like helped me like grow spiritually coming and saying the same thing, like talking about the Father, the Heavenly Father, that he's not human. Christ said this, right? You know, you don't know my father. Your father is the father of light. Saying my father, is the Heavenly Father. So he's saying like he's not of this place, and that we were all given this sovereign right before we were brought here, and that this mind of Christ is collective consciousness. The Christ mind came before in the body of Jesus, Yeshua, which is the Messiah. And he says that he's the Messiah as well. Jesus is the Messiah. He'll go on to say that in a moment. And now that mind of Christ is back. And then, and see, and this is why it's so great. This is how like this is the beginning of, and when we was getting around this time, 97, 99 and shit, Comet Haley Bop, and, then the Mayan, the end of the Bach tunes, you could tell we were like getting at the end of this age, and we're in this age of deception now where shit is so crazy. It's like, the false Christ that come. The Bible's talked about this. I believe this is one of the first ones that the world, really witnessed on and this was probably I'm not saying it was. I don't know. This is not factual information. This is purely opinion. This was probably an operation of some sort,
You'll have to decide that for yourself. I must admit that I am here again, that I'm here saying exactly the same thing that I said then, trying to say it in today's language, trying to hope that for your sakes, you can see what we have to offer you, for our Father offers you life. Not talking about human life. If planet is about to be recycled, and we see the planet as a stepping stone, planet Earth a stepping stone, that just as within a civilization evolves upward, that each segment of civilization becomes more civilized, less barbaric in some ways. It's supposed to, not that it necessarily does. Sometimes it seems to appear to be more civilized when, in fact, it becomes more barbaric, more quick to condemn the rest of the world, more quick to kill the rest of the world that does not think as it thinks. Well, I know what I just said. I said that I am the return of the Son of my Father. I'll tell you something that's even more remarkable. My Father came with me this time. Came in the early 70s, took on a human form, an adult human form, helped me get in an adult human form in the early 70s, and we together helped those who came with us that were also here 2,000 years ago get in the bodies that they were wearing so that they could rid themselves of human behavior, human activity, human thinking, so that they could be ready to move into the kingdom of heaven or the evolutionary level above human. These that are sitting before me have been students of Ti and Do. Ti, my father, have been students of Ti and Do, are still students of Ti and Do, even though Ti returned to the heavens in 1985. And Ti is my heavenly Father, gave me birth into that kingdom before this civilization began. Now, I'm not.
And remember from the wiki, right? Like T was the woman that was part of this cult, right? She died of cancer in 85. So T and Do, these are the two I'm thinking about like Tiamat, and you know, like just saying, like there's strange occult undertones in some of the shit they're saying too, even though it's super new agey, and you know, you're just
here to sell you on that, or who I am, or who these are. I'm here to offer you, as these are, an opportunity to know the truth, so that if you can connect with it at any level, then you might survive the respading or the recycling that is about to occur. We made a tape just shortly ago, and in that tape, we said that there are 3 types of individuals that will survive the recycling. One type of individual is those individuals that have overcome their humanness enough that when the end of this age is complete, when the war is over, the spading complete, there's nothing left here except for recycling. When the end of that occurs, then they have reached a condition of having overcome human behavior, human thinking, human desires, desiring only to be in the kingdom of heaven, in the evolutionary level above human, being service in that kingdom. When they have done that to the degree that they are a match for a physical body belonging to that kingdom. Because humans think that this is a flesh body world, and it is. It's a flesh body world. But it's more importantly a human flesh body world. The kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, the evolutionary level above human, is also, they have bodies. I wouldn't say flesh bodies because it's different characteristics, but it's a physical body, and it's equivalent for that evolutionary level to a human body. It doesn't need the kind of fuel that humans would need. It's not a mammalian body. It doesn't reproduce. It's not male nor female. It probably would look like what you might consider a very attractive extraterrestrial. Now, most of the illustrations of extraterrestrials these days have been grotesque, looked like giant insects or slimy reptilians, or eyes so big that you could fall into them. And an extraterrestrial that we say is a genuine extraterrestrial is not a fallen angel, is not a space alien. We see fallen angels and space aliens as synonymous. Fallen angels and space aliens as synonymous. And that the next level, the only real extraterrestrials, have a body similar to human body. Human body was taken after the same design, the same form, except a human body was more animal than that form. Human has hair, needs teeth, has physical characteristics that are appropriate to this environment. When you go into an environment that does not need to eat things that you have to pull off the bone or crack the seeds off the nut, then certainly teeth are not needed. Hair is not needed. A creature that looks very attractive but has 2 eyes, some remnant of a nose, some remnant of ears, what you would call remnant, even though they function very well as a nose, as ears, have a voice box but don't really need to use it because they communicate in thought. They communicate with their minds. And that's an extraterrestrial. That is the body belonging to a member of the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of heaven.
So, you know, you can kind of hear too, they communicate through thought. And I want you to just kind of we'll take a look here. It's like all you guys, you know, and like I said, if you're watching this, Where's the sexy terrestrials? That's funny as fuck. It's the eyes. It is the eyes. He's a whacked out dude. Like like his eyes. He's whacked out for real. He really is whacked out. But let's just take a look here. Excuse me. Extraterrestrials. Like let's look at like Nordics and shit, right? Arcturians. And let's look at some of the images, right? You'll see, kind of like what he's saying, man. You know, they're described as like these, you know, these beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed, you know, fucking, this is what you see in a lot of that Pleiadian message shit, you know? Let's put the Pleiadians in there too. Whoops. Right? See? I mean, look, you know? A lot of the same type of thing, right? Same type of shit. Now, some of these, not so much, but different species, right? Andromedans, Anunnaki, tall whites, right? So on and so forth. But, you know, this is what the people, you know, now with their channel messages and, you know, all this shit, you know, are claiming to see. You know, the human galactic heritage, right? From Lyra, right? Lyrian star seeds and Pleiadian star seeds. And just, you know, like this is we see so much of this shit now. Syrians and all of it, right? We see so much of this shit now. And they're talking the same thing, you know, ascension, this new age, and it's like these channeled messages through thought, you know. Right? And you can see this is Haley Bop brings closure to. Companion is not irrelevant from our perspective. Arrival is joyously very significant to us at Heaven's Gate. The joy is that our older member in the evolutionary level above human has made it clear to us that Haley Bob's approach is the marker we've been waiting for, the time for the arrival of the spacecraft from the level above human to take us home to their world, into the literal heavens. Our 22 years, there's that 22 again, see? Of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to a conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. Leave this world and go to T's crew. Yeah, so you guys can check this out if you want. It's heavensgate.com. I'll put this in the chat for those who want to go look at the actual, you know, shit themselves. And then we kind of evolve into, you know, shit like you know, the raw tapes, right? Where this is literal rituals, right? This is what they're doing here. They're doing rituals, you know, they're doing actual rituals. You can see like they take the Bible, the chalice of water and all this shit, and they place it at the top of her head. They have it in like a pyramidal shape, right? And I've got the original recordings of the raw material where it's actually the lady Carla doing it. Like, so that's, we'll listen to a little bit of that in just a moment. But we'll finish this last one here of the Heaven's Gate, and then we'll go into the raw experiments. So where are we at? Heaven's Gate.
The kingdom of God. That can seem unattractive to you if you're really into flesh bodies. You know, there are sayings that there's seed of flesh, or there are things that are born of flesh, and then there are things that are born of spirit. are born of water is synonymous with being born of flesh. If people really understood the religious literature and could read it as it was intended to be read, they would know that it was written to describe that flesh, seed of flesh, was seed of the negative, the opposition, the space aliens, the fallen angels. Therefore, to the next level, human flesh.
And think about it too. Like, and we look at like Gnostic texts such as hypostasis of the archons or reality of the rulers. It talks about the separation of the waters above the firmament from the waters below, right? The Anunnaki, we had Lord Ea, which is Lord of the waters, and then he became Lord Enki, Lord of the earth, right? Or Lord Ea, which is Lord of the earth, and Lord Enki, Lord of the water, right? And then we think about the deluge, which was a great flood, and then the earth, 70% water, right? And the human body, 70% water, right? Age of Pisces, the fish, right? The deluge, the great flood, us descending or falling, right? Lucifer being the intellect, the fallen angel, into the intellect, into the mind, into the physical, right? So this guy is speaking some occultic truths here, right?
Flesh is of the lower forces of the kingdom level.
And remember when we were looking at the 22 millimeter film, right? Once again, that 22, right? We're seeing this recurring number, this theme. And we were looking at the auras. They were negatively charged ions, like he's describing negative entities, right? And even on the Mars exploration, right? The Anunnaki talking about being a way station on the way to Earth, you know, these giant beings that he was seeing, the giant shadows, the negatively auras, all of it. It's like all kind of coming together.
Beneath the kingdom of God, of the stepping stone that could lead to the kingdom of heaven. So flesh, or human flesh, now that isn't to put you down and to say you're all, if you're wearing a human vehicle. I'm wearing a human vehicle because I have to wear one for this task. I don't like it. It doesn't match me. And those who sit in front of me, they don't like.
No, your human vehicle matches the fuck out of you. You are a weird motherfucker, and you have the weirdest human vehicle I've ever seen in my life.
They're human vehicles that they have to wear for this task, but they have to wear them because the task of overcoming the human kingdom requires that they overcome flesh, the genetic vibrations, the lust of the flesh, the desire to reproduce, the desire to cling to offspring or spouse or parents.
And see, and this is where a lot of, you know, this is still like that religious ideology of like your humanness is flawed and wrong and bad, and you know, like our desires, the things that bring us physical pleasure, you know, it's our fallen state.
Or house, or money, or fame, or job, or
that to be controlled by those things, right? That's where the evil or the flaw lies. It's like, you know, it's in esoteric practices, it's all about learning to master the self and not be driven by our desire.
It could go on, overcoming the human flesh and its desires, even its religious desires. There is not a religion on the face of the globe that is of God as it is today.
And you know, and we'll stop it there. I mean, with him, as you guys can see, right? He's saying the same shit everybody else is saying today, right? This is the shit that the New Age movement, the New Thought movement, all these people are dropping on us today, right? How the religions of the world don't reflect God, right? This collective consciousness, we're all in this mind of Christ, right? This is a new age, right? And these aliens that are, freeing us from this next evolutionary level, it's no different than what this motherfucker's saying, except nobody's asking you to drink the Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid they're asking you to drink is their fucking memberships and their subscriptions and all the shit, the content, the crap content that they sell. That's it. That's their Kool-Aid now, Yeah, well, he's driving a salvage title. That's fucking funny. Oh yeah. Well, he's like, my human body, my human body don't reflect my. Yeah, it does. You have a weird ass consciousness, and your body is weird, bro. It definitely reflects you. So now we're gonna go to, some channeling. This is people claiming to channel alien consciousness, right? And we'll look at this. So these are, studies here. We have 3 studies at the University of Zurich that demonstrate that hypnosis alters activity in the large-scale functional networks of the brain. It also affects neurochemical milieu of specific brain areas. Hypnosis has so far been something of a black box, which is the hippocampus, of the scientific perspective up to now, which is the black cube, the cube of Saturn, which directs us to language and all of that. We'll get into that another day. Up to now, we have not had the data to prove whether hypnosis really is an extraordinary state of human consciousness or simply the subject's imagination. Yet it remains a topic of fascination for many, which we know that, they're doing studies now, and we know that hypnosis literally is to circumvent the left brain to access the right brain, right? Then we have, is your mind just a parasite on your physical body? What if intelligence can thrive without consciousness? How about that? With each of these experiences, you are aware not only of what you experience, you're also aware that you're experiencing it. You are conscious of experience. And that implies you are conscious to begin with. But here is a question for you. What is it that consciousness is good for? What does it do? Is it even necessary? And they're not too, and this is a book that they're talking about, after the time humans figure out that whatever it is and this is alien, in the not too distant future, ship's crew by a few heavily modified humans is sent to the edge of our solar system after Earth gets scanned by devices of obviously alien origin. Out there beyond Pluto's orbit, which Pluto is of the underworld, and at a particular period of time when a lot of these occult shit was coming up, right? And this, this renaissance of what would we call it? The Industrial Revolution. That was Pluto going above the ecliptic over, the last 100 or whatever so years. The discovery of Uranus and Neptune, all this, right? So astrologically, and now it's going back down beneath it. So now we're getting more away from this as we go into the Aquarian age. Humans figure out that whatever's on the other end of the dialogue doesn't really understand anything. It simply knows the rules of human language and is providing appropriate structured replies to any communication the humans send. No meaning is occurring on their end. Humans eventually breach the alien craft and capture some of its inhabitants. Examining the specimens, it soon becomes clear that the creatures do not have the neural architecture needed to support the consciousness that occurs in human brains. Eventually, the crews come to the stunning conclusion that while aliens are vastly more intelligent than we are, they lack consciousness entirely. They process information, innovate, and solve problems, but they're not aware of what they are doing. So, and this is, I know this is, just a book or whatever, but it kind of brings us to this, these interdimensional entities that kind of like know and perceive and have everything all at once, right? All the answers all at once. And what is it called? The alien code. Let me pull this up. This is a movie, and this is a badass movie, by the way. the alien code, and they're giants, right? And hold on. Here it is. Here we go. So we're gonna look at this. This is when he's like, we're not gonna look at that one. We're gonna look at this. But he's having this conversation with the aliens, and these are like these giant beings. They're the men in black. They're running our governments and all this shit. And they're talking about how they're outside of time and they're studying humanity because we're, within the conscious paradigm, just like this novel is talking about. And think about us channeling all these things, having this ability to remote view and do it and throw our consciousness in different directions and communicate with other consciousness that has this all knowing, right? It's not trapped in the perception that we're trapped into. So,
do you fear living? Relax. Where am I? What do you see?
Hold on. Let's see if we got one with the video.
It is a curiosity to...
Hold on. Be a lot more powerful with the video. Sorry.
Do you fear death?
No.
Do you fear living?
What are you?
Nothing you can understand.
What the fuck do you want?
We are very curious about your kind and your experience of time.
That's all this is.
It is a curiosity to us.
All this.
We would like to understand. Linear time seems so impractical a state of being. To learn is a tediously slow process, and with each generation it begins anew. A laborious cycle of empty promise.
And when he first starts seeing these entities, like in this movie too, and we're going to jump into Raw in just a second. When he first starts seeing them, he sees them as like the men in black. They look weird, but they're white and everything. And as his consciousness shifts and adjusts, he starts seeing them in the shadow paradigm, and start seeing them morph into their giant form and all kinds of shit. This is a wild fucking movie. Just telling you. I won't pin, but I'll put it in the comment section of this video. Free movie sites where you can go watch this. I'll put the link.
Banishes mankind to the torment of ignorance, forever a child in the dark. How curious that nature could punish a creature so malevolently. You are condemned to relearn pain for an eternity. How painful it must be to possess self-awareness and consciousness as you do, trapped in a lower dimension such as you are.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck do you want from me? Why did you choose me?
Choose?
Yeah.
Why did you choose to decrypt the message?
You asked me that before. You came to my house.
We do not understand decision. We exist in one single moment. One blink.
See, we do not understand decision, just like the novel we were talking about. They're not making choice. They're outside of choice. They're in an all-knowing, there's no time. It's only the now, knowing all. There's, so.
Of instantaneity. We understand everything there is to be understood in our world. Therefore, causality, probability, and consequence are a mystery to us.
It's something that doesn't exist in your time.
If man's experience of time was like ours, would he remain? Would he remain? Would he remain? Would he remain?
Oh, fuck.
Relax. 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 If the cracks of time were filled and man had no place left to hide, what then?
Oh,
and like his mind is just fucking fracturing from, and you know, I want you to think of like the awakening experience as a whole, spirit, you know, like even a lot of this shit that we've like looked at tonight, I shit you not. If you don't have experience with this, and this is something I've learned through, well, I've been doing this for like 10 years now. The occult and esoteric and spiritual shit, it can, and you know, and a lot of people are arrogant asshats that do this, and they, you know, they think they know everything, but they really not experience much of anything. They've just heard it on YouTube videos and regurgitate it because, you know, the keywords and trigger words and all that. But anybody who's truly dabbled with this stuff and experienced and experimented with it knows, like, a true spiritual awakening is like got you on the border, like the brink of insanity. Because your reality, what you perceive to be reality, crumbles right before your eyes. You realize that everything that you've ever thought thought that you knew, thought, you know, that you thought were your own thoughts and beliefs, and you know, we're all just labels and shit given to you from society, and you know, these preconceived notions that we have, and just then when you start to truly experience, you know, reality shifts and it alters, you know. And it can seem as if hallucinations at time as you watch the fabric of everything kind of fall apart. And like him having this kind of like breakdown, you know, his whole world is being imploded, you know, from within by being bombarded with this experience of timelessness and, you know, the shattering of his paradigm.
What happens when man must wait no more?
You become you.
Is that something you'd like?
I can't exist here. It's making me sick. You're killing me.
But there is only one certainty for man. Death. Yet man hides from this inevitability. Man desires more time to distance himself from it. However, the more time man has, the more it takes from him. Prolonging your existence comes at the cost of unknown suffering. Time determines all for man. Ironic that it should be both the gift and the thief.
What's it like in your world?
You cannot understand.
If you can bridge the gap between dimensions to communicate with me, then you can fucking try. You know things about us and about our universe. Tell me.
If you're seeking answers to alter your understanding of reality, does that not make your world a projection rather than a perception? What is the actuality? Do you see the world as you imagine it? Or are you observing what is really there? If reality is just a projection, what happens when the source, when consciousness is absent? Even with an eternity of self-reflection, man cannot understand the difference between actuality and illusion. With every man born comes a new reality, all competing in perpetuity. Perhaps this is why man is so perpetually at odds, so conflicted, so divided.
Stop! 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 Am I the only one you're doing this to?
Would you feel better if you weren't? You don't want to be alone.
I don't want to suffer.
You're in pain.
Yes, I'm in pain, and now I just have to sit here until I fucking die.
What if you could return to a moment in what you understand as the past, before you were sick?
If I were to travel back in time?
Yes, with the information you now possess. How do you think it would alter your behavior? What would you decide to do differently, if anything at all?
I would tell neighbors to go fuck themselves.
You would choose differently.
I would stop this. I would stop you.
Remove us from the equation.
I can't.
You would be unable to see us.
Doesn't matter. I would know that you're there.
And see, basically, too, and we'll go on here to the raw shit, but you know, they're able to view us, these interdimensional entities, by like peering through this window. They're not trapped within the frame of consciousness that we are, so they basically can loop, you know, like one of our times and see it from every perspective. They're outside of our frame of reference, and that's what allows them to be timeless and to know all things. It's a wild, mind-blowing movie, and I really, really think if you have not seen it, you should. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it will definitely change you. So now we go to the Raw, which I think this is the actual link here. I don't think this is on my PC, so I'll try to give that to you guys here. Maybe. And bam. And you can see this is this is a ritual that they're doing here, so they are doing some form of like a seance, really. So firstly, if the picture is taken in the working visual image, there needs to be that is well for you to photograph only an actual working and no sham, no substitution of any material. There shall be no distortions, which this group can avoid any more than we would wish distortions in our word. Secondly, it's inadvisable to photograph the instrument or any portion of the working room while the instrument is in trance. This is a narrow band contact, and we wish to keep electrical and electromagnetic energies constant when their presence is necessary and not present at all otherwise. Thirdly, once the instrument is aware of the picture taking, whether before or after the working, the instrument shall be required to continuously respond to speech, thus assuring that no trance is imminent. So this is a form of trance, hypnosis, altering her state of consciousness. We ask that any photographs tell the truth, that they be dated and shine with clarity. And these are like the stipulations, guys, like they were given before this, right? Of this LNL research here. We ask that the photographs tell the truth, that they be dated and shine with clarity so that there is no shadow of any but genuine expression which may be offered to those who seek truth. We come as humble messengers of the law of one, desiring to decrease distortions. We ask that you, who have been our friends, work with any considerations such as above discussed, not with the thought of quickly removing an unimportant detail, but as in all ways, regard such as another opportunity to, as the adept must, be yourselves and offer that which is in and with you without pretense of any kind. And then you can see here, Raw session number 2, January 20th, 1981. And notice all of these. Monroe Institute, what was 83 or 81, Raw session 81, Uri Geller 72, like this has all been 70s, 80s, right? Like all of it. So, and MK Ultra was what, 60s, right? So, it's, pretty interesting. Place at the entity's head a virgin chalice of water. Placed to the center of the book most closely aligned with the instrument's mental distortions, which are aligned most closely with the law of one. That being the Bible that she touches most frequently. So it's the Holy Bible. To the other side of the Bible, place if you were Muslim, it'd be the Quran, or, whatever book of religious choice for this ritual if you wanted to do this yourself, which I have also participated in something similar to this myself. I've done all these things on my own. So that's what I mean. Like, a lot of this shit people think you can just dabble in. This will have profound effects on your reality and consciousness, all of them. Everything we've talked about tonight. To the other side of the Bible, place a small amount of scents or incense in a virgin censer. To the rear of the book, symbolizing 1, open to the Gospel of John, chapter 1, and place a white candle. You can see here they're setting her up. At this particular working, there is some slight interference with the contact due to the hair of the instrument. We may suggest the combing of this antenna-like material into a more orderly configuration prior to the working. So they're combing the hair. We hook up to 3 tape recorder microphones just below her chin so that we don't miss any of the session if tape recorder 1 or 2 malfunctions, which has happened from the introduction to the raw material. Look at her fucking eyes. Look how big she's got to be on drugs or something, man. I mean, honestly, look how big her pupils are. They're fucking huge. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, let me show you this. Look how big her eyeballs are. Look at that. Look, they are solid black. Look at that. Woo, boy. She's higher than fuck, dude. The proper alignment is with the head pointed 20 degrees north by northeast. There's a number 2 again, right? This is direction from which the newer or new age distortions of love light, which are less distorted, are emanating, and this instrument will find comfort therein. Now you can see the alignment, the incense, the candle, the chalice of water, the Bible, all of it. Her eyes covered, like for some sort of sensory deprivation, the microphones, right? The instrument would be strengthened by the wearing of a white robe. We talked about this earlier too, right? The linen and all of this, right? This spiritual fabrics. The instrument shall be covered and prone, the eyes covered. And is this the image? One of these has an image of what looks like a fucking alien in it. Is this it? I'm not sure. Each of us contributes ideas, but the great bulk of the line of questioning is accomplished by Don, who is the questioner, since he has years of experience in investigating the UFO contactee phenomena necessary to develop the intellectual foundation which is required in any attempt to fit the diverse pieces of the puzzle together. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if it's this photo, but there is like an actual photo from this. Let's see. Hold on. It's right here, I think. There it is. I think it's this one. So we'll see if we can find it as we're going through this. But there's one of the images that literally, it looks like a fucking alien or something's like standing right in the picture. Like a smoky. Yeah, this ain't it. Well, let's see if we can find it as we do this. We'll see if we'll find it. Where is it at? I think it's this one. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's one of these. It might say it in here too. We average about 1 session every week or 10 days now, which allows us to prepare for each session with the greater degree of care that seems to be required as sessions accumulate. A great deal of thought goes into each session, which Don asked during the questions. After John lights the candle and incense, he and I walk the circle of one around Carla and repeat the words which begin each contact. At some point after that, Carla departs her physical body, and Ra then uses it to make the words from the response to Don's questions. I meditate and send light to Carla for the duration of the session, only taking time out to flip the tapes over as they finish each side. In this picture, Carla is not channeling, but Ra is singing Amazing Grace, as per Ra's instruction for the instrument to be constantly speaking if her eyes are covered during the picture taking sessions. Interesting. The picture was taken immediately after Carla responded to her name. The eye covering was removed. This is her coming out of it. The session is over. Carla returns to her usually quite stiff body. He calls her name a few times. Then she sits up, rubs her neck, gives her the chalice full of water, which we have filled with our love and our vibrations that are literally concentrating it. I think this is it. This might be it. Trying to find it, guys. I think it's right there, something like that. One of these photos. Do you guys know what I'm talking about in the chat? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? You actually want to see that movie now? Yeah, that movie's amazing. It's amazing. And if you guys are in the chat here on YouTube, please make sure to hit the thumbs up. And if you guys catch us on the flip side, I will be streaming this, premiering this on Best Damn Podcast 2 and John Keane on YouTube. This will also be added on Rumble, BitChute, and both my Facebook pages as well. So make sure to thumbs up and share and comment on this. I'd love to see the comments from everybody. And keep in mind, we are viewer powered. So if you get something out of this, consider donating, supporting. Kimberly F has provided all the, social media links and donation links. They're in the description, pinned at the top of the comment section. So now here we go. Let's go back to this. And this has been one of the more fun videos I've done for a while. So I love this kind of shit, honestly. And I think it is this image. Where like the ET is supposedly hiding in this image somewhere. I don't know where, but pretty sure it's that image. The exterior of the house. Oh, yeah, look at this. This is some weird shit. They get weird photos on this. Like, see, look at the cat. Right? This is fucking weird. Remember, they were doing witchcraft. This is what they're doing. They're doing rituals. They're walking the circles, using the chalices. They're summoning spirits or channeling spirits or doing the seances, This 13-year-old Gandalf, and I believe the numbers are using, like, all of it. These were members of some type of society, right? So, where is it at, man? We're gonna see it. I know. I think they. It's this one. I think I've said that like for 3 images. Where is it? I think it actually is the one with the TV. It's either this one or the one before it. But you guys have to look at this. Does anybody in the chat know what I'm talking about? Where it's like you can see like it's just like a ET kind of like standing off to the side, or it kind of looks like a smoky image of it. It's very creepy. You got to like know where it's at to be able to see it though. So and it looks like a gray. That's what it looks like. Very creepy. I don't know. You guys have to go through this yourself and look at it. I'm surprised it's not on the internet somewhere. Yeah, nobody in the chat seems to know either, so it's cool. We'll just jump into this now. Come on, chat. You should help me out. You guys should know this shit. All right, so this is the original audio recordings. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard all the recordings on YouTube. I am raw. This is her, Carla. This is from L&L Research. So this is the real shit here. Okay, here we go. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. It's too long, but I want you to get an idea. This is like of the actual ritual she's doing.
You are listening to a cassette recording of a channeling session from the Raw Contact, a series of 106 sessions that were conducted between 1981 and 1984, using a form of tuned trance telepathy. Throughout these sessions, a group of entities identified as Ra shared information regarding the Law of One, spiritual evolution, and a variety of esoteric topics through a series of questions and answers. The full text transcript of these recorded sessions can be read for free at lnlresearch.org, where you can also learn more about this audio and its origins. This recording is intended for personal study and is not available for commercial use. Please contact L&L Research if you wish to use this audio in any other way.
And this is personal study. We're doing this for educational and entertainment purposes. It's available in the public domain, which is protected under the Fair Use Act.
I am Ra. I have not spoken through this instrument. We had to wait until she was precisely tuned as we send a narrow band vibration. We greet you in the love and in the light of our infinite Creator. We have watched your group. We have been called to your group, for you have a need for the diversity of experiences in channeling, which go with a more intensive, or as you might call it, advanced approach to the system of studying the patterns of the illusions of your body, your mind, and your spirit, which you call seeking the truth. We hope to offer you a somewhat different slant upon the information, which is always and ever the same. The Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite Creator has only one important statement. And that statement, my friends, as you know, is all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought.
All things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought, right? And this kind of goes into that concept of simulation theory, right? Or, the holographic universe, whatever, meaning, in Hermetic principles, the universe is mental, the all is mind, meaning like we are in the conscious thought of this, of this one divine consciousness, right? This universal mind fragmenting itself in smaller pieces of consciousness, creating all these different experiences in this constant evolution and growth. We're living in a projection, which is our own perception. It's not the real reality. Things outside of this, outside of the constructs of time, they see the whole thing simultaneously at once. We see bits and fragments, right? As this limited piece of experience that we have. And we're like mini computers to this giant master computer, right? That's creating the whole of reality. We wouldn't be conscious thinking beings because we're made in the image. We're our reflection. We have to come from a conscious thinking entity to be able to be conscious and thinking, essentially.
We will exercise each channel if we are able to. The reception of our being is a somewhat more advanced feat than some of the more broad vibration channels opened by other members for more introductory and intermediate work.
And this is so much different than the other recordings because this is actually her in real time channeling this shit. And you can hear how she's like trailing off. Her voice is very quiet. It's not entertaining. It's like they're in this seance. You hear the quietness of the room, the ambiance, of the room as she's doing this. They're doing this in ritual form. They're calling it, telepathy. So she's using telepathic powers to communicate on a mental thought vibration with external entities, right? Disembodied entities that call themselves a social memory complex, right? So this older, ancient social memory complex that's associated with the Egyptians or the gods, right? Which take it back to the beginning of tonight's video and the Mars exploration and all of that, right? And what we've talked about Anunnaki and all this, these ancient races, they were social memory complexes. And remember when they talked about the Anunnaki, the reason that they wanted to destroy the humans, right, and flood the earth is because of the noise that we would make. And I want you to kind of think of this. This is like a different interpretation on that. A lot of people will say it's because of us having sex and the noise that we made on Earth. That's not what they were talking about. They were a hive mind species, okay? A collective conscious species, okay? And the noise was our conscious thinking. So imagine all of us on this vibrational band or frequency band consciously. We're all humanity. We're all communicating consciously. We can hear each other's thoughts. We know everything. There's nothing hidden from one another. We can see all our past, our present, our future, just like what we were talking about earlier with the aliens and the alien code and the the books and all that we were talking about, right? The alien parasites, all that, like the outside, no consciousness, outside of consciousness, right? To where you see all things at once, that void of space, right? No physicality, that higher state, that unified, deal. So now imagine being tuned into that, and you have this mammalian species, and you genetically alter them by giving them your seed, right? Meaning your eternal self, that spirit, right? You put that in this species, so now they're tuned into that frequency too. But this species is not one unified wave or band or vibration anymore. Through reproduction and the fragmenting or fracturing or whatever, the fractals that you've created, they're now a bunch of, they believe they're disconnected, right? And because of that, this division, this illusory division, right? It's creating different thoughts. They're not on the same wave, the same tune, the same frequency, the same vibration. They're all thinking different thoughts, different things, and it's creating conscious noise. So the noise that the Anunnaki wanted to get rid of us for wasn't because we were like having sex and being loud down here, physically noise. It was our conscious thoughts. It was our thinking. It was all of that disturbing thoughts. Like, and is thought like the parasite, right? Like, think about it. Thought gives, in physical reality, it's consciousness, right? Consciousness gives power to being, right? And in this being, it's thought, then emotion, which is energy, emotion, which either attracts or repels experiences to us, right? And that attraction or repulsion is what creates this illusory, binary, we're in this conflict constantly. So it's like the thought is the division. It's even in the Gnostic texts, right? The first book of Pistis Sophia, when it's talking about Yaldabaoth, right? He was hidden behind a cloud on a throne. A cloud represents consciousness. That's why, like, when it talks about the second coming of Christ, behold, he's coming on the clouds. That means he's coming on the consciousness, right? And he heard himself and thus was divided, right? That is consciousness, right? He heard himself. He was thinking. Then you hear the thing about NPCs, right? Non-player characters, right? Just filling characters in the simulation, and they have no inner dialogue, right? They can't hear themselves. It's the observer. Like, you think about Eckhart Tolle and shit, and he's talking about just observing, letting the thoughts flow in meditation, not condemning or condoning them, not latching on to any of them, right? And we have intrusive thoughts and, thoughts that tell us that we're not good enough and all of this, right? That was the noise that the Anunnaki wanted to get rid of, right? It was like a parasitic, part of us, that broken, fragmented part of us. And that's why they said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, lasting no more than 120 years. And then that's where the alteration of the telomeres, which allows us to regenerate, and that's where you get into the adrenochrome and stem cells and, baby's blood and all this with the cults, where that ambrosia, the nectar of the gods, it allows us to rejuvenate and stay young. So
Let us, for a moment, consider thought. What is it, my friends, to take thought? Took you then thought today? What thoughts did you think today? What thoughts were part of the original thought today? In how many of your thoughts did the creation provide? Was love contained? And was service freely given?
Was love contained and was service freely given? Because consciousness or the spirit of God, right? This omnipresent, omnipotent spirit, the master of all, is in servitude to all, right? It's the creator of all things, but it's literally a slave to all living beings. It's consciously at our whim. We're constantly using that force to give us life, to give creation to everything. Like, that's why that service to self, right? Selfishness, self-centeredness, right? It's the negative and divisiveness, right? So like when people dress up, the self-love thing, right? Like it's this is the age of deception, the age of deception, and that's why it's thy will be done, right? If we were all in service of one another, nobody would ever have any need. If we all helped one another, give to one another, love one another, no one would ever have need. So I think I'm going to end it there. I'm going to wrap this one up here. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you're watching this live, please hit the thumbs up for me. If you're watching this on YouTube or you catch this on the flip side, thumbs up, heart it, whatever platform, and share it to your social medias. Sharing it really does help spread the word. That helps a ton. Here. And I want to, keep in mind, guys, I've been demonetized on Facebook, YouTube, all of the platforms. So keep in mind, we're viewer powered. If you like the channel, you get something from it. You just want to help me out and be cool. Donate, support, paypal.me/the Best Damn Podcast. Cash App, Best Damn Podcast. Facebook.com, John Keane, Best Damn Podcast. That's Facebook Messenger Pay. Or join me on patreon.com, Best Damn Podcast Official. And everybody who donates and supports this month, what is it, April? In the month of April, you'll get access to our private and uncensored content. I have about 5 or 6 different playlists, about 15, 20 videos here on YouTube that are private, and people that support can get access to those. Some of my occult series, gateway series, shit like that. And then we have the uncensored content, which has been, all the strikes, been removed, taken down, all of that as well. I have over 200 hours of watch time on that. So if you donate support, text 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to book a personal tarot or astrology reading, same thing, text that number or email. They start at $35 and go up. And please follow me, Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, YouTube, Best Damn Podcast Official, and Best Damn Podcast, and John Keane 33. And then, Facebook, John Keane, Best Damn Podcast, and Best Damn Podcast. Check us out, BitChute, Rumble, and TikTok at the Best Damn Podcast. All the links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Kimberly F. You've done a great job moderating. Amun Ra, Jimmy Wormholes, Donna Marie Farrell. Thank you so much. Glow Bear, just everybody in the chat, man. I appreciate all of you guys tonight. So I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and donate. I'll see you guys next time. Y'all have an awesome one. Peace.